Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, June 22nd meeting of the Bennington Select Board. We're coming to you from the Bennington Fire Facility Multipurpose Room on River Street in Bennington. My name is Tom Haley. I have the honor of chairing this board. I will invite my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting on my right.
Good evening, I'm Ed Woods.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
Hello, Jim Sullivan.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Clark Adams.
And I'm Jackie Metz.
Also with us this evening is Nancy Lively, who is preparing to take excellent minutes. I am very loud. Town Manager Dan Monks. We have Jonas Spivak, who is handling the audience on Zoom. And we have David Conwell also. Are you helping with that? Yeah, okay, very good. We'll begin this evening, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Clark, would you mind?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was reminded that we voted at our last meeting to bring an update on the vacant property ordinance at this meeting. So I'm going to ask to amend the agenda for a very brief update on where that subcommittee's at. Could I please have a motion to do so? Second?
Second.
Okay. And I'm going to suggest we put it right after public comment. It won't take long. With that item 4A. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Now, on to the vision statement. Jackie, could you share the vision statement that guides our work, please?
Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, and resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much. Next up is the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of June 8th, the warrants, and I saw no licenses, Dan, is that correct?
No licenses.
All right. So for the purpose of discussion, could I please have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All in, okay. So, any comments on the consent agenda? I did have one. You got one? Okay, go ahead.
On the warrants.
Yep.
Page 2, 405748, Brookfield Service, WW Generator Panel, 20,187. Is that for the wastewater?
Yep, that's a wastewater generator panel. They updated that.
And is that something we normally buy, or?
Well, it's something that we not normally, because this is an update. I think that's a 20-plus-year-old generator, and they had to update it with new electronics.
But it wasn't something that was broken that had to get replaced?
That's right. It was an update.
Okay.
It probably would have broken fairly soon, but it was still functioning.
Okay. That's it.
My question was first page, second one down. 405731, Kristen Canastracci? Refund credits, what are those?
I'm guessing those are from property tax refunds, but I can certainly find out for sure.
Okay.
Yep. Based on the amount it is, and that's from 2023 to 2026, I think that's probably pretty likely.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I have just one question here on page 5. Item number 405783, Morris Repair Inc. It's the fire vehicle repair.
Your microphone, please.
Yeah, again, page 5 of 9.
Yep.
Item number 405783, Morris Repair Inc., BFD vehicle repair. What were the nature of those repairs? Or It's not the vehicle that was damaged, is it?
So that's a Bennington Fire Department vehicle. I don't know which vehicle it was. It had to be a larger truck, obviously, since it's Morse repair. So that is a vehicle repair for one of the fire department fire trucks.
Okay. That vehicle wasn't taken out of service or anything, it's still in service, would you know?
Based on the amount of money, I would say that probably that wouldn't take it out of service. That probably is something like a headlight. I mean, it's amazing how expensive some of those parts are. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's very unlikely that was out of service, but I can certainly check.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I see no abstentions.
Well, I wasn't present at the last, we're assuming that the minutes as part of this too, or no? We can.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that, Clerk, I'm sorry. We could pull the minutes aside if you want.
Yeah, no, I will just abstain from the meeting, from those minutes, since I didn't participate in those meetings, so.
Okay, so let me rephrase. All in favor of accepting the warrants, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And all in favor of accepting the minutes of June 8th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. Thank you, Clerk.
No problem.
Okay, next, we have public comment. Remind everyone that public comment is a time for the community to come forward and speak of things that are for the good of the community that do not appear on the agenda. So if you do have a comment to make on an agenda item, please wait until that agenda item comes up and you will be given an opportunity to speak. Please do keep your comments to 3 minutes or fewer. This is not a question and answer period, although if we have questions that have a short answer, we will take them up at the end of the public comment period. So we have 3 people signed up. Mary Morrissey on PFOA and PFAS.
Good evening. I'm Mary Morrissey from Bennington, and I'm here to inform you that there is a meeting this coming Wednesday, June 24th, here at the Firehouse at 5:30. It's in regards to the PFOA and PFAs. We've been having a number of inquiries about where things stand in different parts of the community with those issues. I had organized a legislative meeting up in Montpelier a couple of weeks ago, so the Bennington County legislative delegation was informed and updated where things stood. But I did at that meeting request a meeting down here for our citizens who are dealing with it. They need to have an eye-to-eye, discussion with those who are dealing with it so that we're all on board working in the same direction to get good results for these issues. There will be members of the Commissioner of Natural Resources as well as the Health Department, and others will be here. I believe most everyone that is personally involved with having a PFOA or PFA issue was contacted by the agency who's been working with them. But I wanted to tonight get it out to the public that this meeting, and it's an important meeting. So be here at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next, Jack Rossiter Munley on the Bennington County Multicultural Community Center.
Hi there, Jack Rossiter Munley, Bennington, Vermont, and I'm here just to make sure that it's very clear to everybody that the Bennington County Multicultural Community Center is now separate from ECDC, the Refugee Resettlement Agency. For the last period of time, those have sort of been synonymous. ECDC is continuing as a branch, ECDC VT, based in Brattleboro and with an office here in Bennington as the Federal Refugee Resettlement Agency, and the Multicultural Center is continuing as the community-based organization that is focused not only on supporting people who are arriving through the refugee resettlement process, but also promoting multicultural community building of all kinds and taking a really expansive view of what that can look like in our, not just our town here in Bennington, but also throughout our county. ECDC as an organization is operating out of the building at 120 Union Street, and the Multicultural Center is now no longer in that space. We will be in other spaces, permanent and temporary, and we will continue to build towards the vision that we've begun building together in the years to come. So just wanted to make sure that was clear. If anyone has questions, obviously please reach out to me. You can get me at jackrmbcmcc@gmail.com. That's jackrmbcmcc@gmail.com, or benningtoncountymcc@gmail.com. So a lot more to come in the coming weeks and months, and a lot of really exciting projects and events planned, but just wanted to make sure that was clear for everyone, and as I said, happy for questions and partnerships of all kinds.
Can I ask Jack a
Thanks,
question?
Jack. Sure.
Are you still running both of the programs?
No, I am no longer with ECDC.
So who's running the other program?
It is run out of the Brattleboro office. Joe Wea is the executive director of ECDC VT. And there are local staff in the Bennington office.
And that's the program working with refugees?
That is the program that is connected to the federal government's refugee resettlement grants and refugee arrivals, of which there are very few at the moment.
And do they have the funding in Bennington to go forward?
They have some funding, yes. They would have to be the ones to speak on that directly.
Yep. Thanks, Jack. Next, Jonah Spivak on the 4th of July.
Hello, Jonas Spivak, Communications Coordinator for the town of Bennington. 4th of July, it's right around the corner, and I wanted to take this opportunity to give a final update on plans for the 250th anniversary of the 4th of July. Since we don't have another select board meeting prior to that, I'll be speaking again today. And first of all, to let everyone know that this will be the biggest fireworks display in history for Bennington. Thanks very much to, number one, Bennington taxpayers, but also to Price Chopper and Market 32, Casella, and MSK Engineers for all helping out to make this the biggest fireworks display ever. The festivities begin at 11 o'clock at the Battle Monument for a reading of the Declaration and bell ringing ceremony. It continues at the Bennington Battlefield at 2:30 and finishes up at Willow Park at 5 o'clock. And I'm happy to announce that thanks to the VFW and the VFW Auxiliary of Post 1332 of Bennington, there will be free birthday cake to help everyone celebrate. Get it while it lasts. There's going to be 800 slices, so there should be enough for everybody, and we look forward to seeing you there. There's also going to be lots of kids' activities, bouncy houses, vendors, so it should be a very worthwhile 4th of July for everybody in the community. Cheers.
Jonah, can you just repeat the sponsors again, please?
Price Chopper and Market 32, as well as Casella and MSK Engineering. Those are the sponsors for the fireworks. There have been many sponsors for the other events throughout the day. The Bennington Friends of the Bennington Battle Monument and the VFW are two I mentioned already, and the Bennington Battlefield, and others through the Bennington 250th Anniversary Committee.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jonah. Is there anyone that wished to speak that did not have the opportunity to sign up before the meeting? Oh, we have someone online. Zoom caller, please identify yourself and state your town of residence.
Stan Rustino, Bennington, Vermont. You always have somebody online. Thank you for doing this. First and foremost, this evening, I'd like to address the Select Board on the minutes of June 8th. I wasn't quoted on what I asked Select Board members mentioning about the subpoena. I know it's on video, but I think it's very important because I asked a serious magnitude of questions that it be put in the minutes about what's it costing taxpayers for having select board members go through a subpoena process under the direction of Mr. Malone on the solar project. And there's a lot of connecting of the dots on that. That's first and foremost. Secondly, I have a concern on 100 Depot Street, which used to be Paul's Fish Fry, TJ's Fish Fry, in September of last year, as you know, but the people at home don't know, that property was purchased by, and it's going to sound weird, the Church of the Multitude, Mixed Multitude. Then recently, of this year, it went back on the market. So I guess I know buying property and selling property is worse than the stock market here in Bennington, but it doesn't help us with the grand list on that situation at all. Thirdly, Better Bennington Corporation once again dodged the bullet. The weather was finally nice to have that event for the Hemmings Motor News Cruise. Almost didn't take effect, but it did. So I'm glad that it's growing leaps and bounds each year that they have it on. I guess they got 3 more that happens, and I guess it ends up in September. But no, I'm just a little concerned on, the process of that property on Depot Street.
Thank you, Sam. Go ahead.
Martha Mack. This is on? This is not. Martha Mackey? No.
It's usually on.
Martha Mackey, Bennington, Vermont. Just following up on Mary Morrissey's comment. I noticed a while back that some of our car washes, I know definitely the one at the Buck Stop, offers Teflon coatings for cars, which, considering all of the focus on PFOAs currently, the fact that that's then running down into our sewer system seems like it should be something of consideration. So that's all.
Thank you very much. Deb.
Deb Matt, Bennington. I'm inquiring about the Ben High. Will there be a tour before that is open and we make a move up there so that maybe we could get an idea of where we would put things when we move? And is the sports center going to be shut down when with the Ben High opens up? Are all those functions going to be at the new location?
Shannon?
Thanks.
Is this on?
Yep.
Now it's on?
Yep.
Okay. Speaking to Deb, to your idea of a tour of Ben High, I have spoken with the developer, Zach Hale, about that. Right now, he's really focused on finishing the apartments first, and then, we'll move into all of the town spaces. So I think that's something that Jonah and I will plan to do, is convene a group, particularly from the senior center and the sports center, to look at the new space as it's being developed and help plan the decoration, how it's going to be laid out, just like you said. And then as far as the sports center, that just changed hands. So Grace Christian School just bought the old Catamount School, also known as the sports center. That is still going to continue to be open to the community, and the rent payments that the town has been putting towards that and that the Y has been putting towards that will continue until we move to the Ben High space.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Shannon, so when the Ben High opens, the Y will not stay at Grace Christian?
They could. It's going to be up to them. But we will not be paying any rent on that space at that time. So if the Y wants to continue, it would be completely on their dime.
Anyone else? All right. Very robust public comment this evening. All right, next, update on vacant properties. As you remember, at our last meeting, we agreed to form a 3-member subcommittee consisting of Jackie, Ed, and myself. We have met once, at which point we came up with kind of a game plan. We're reaching out to stakeholders, trying to arrange a roundtable discussion. At this point, we're in the middle of scheduling things that works for everyone. So that's, I think, do you have anything to add to that, Ed or Jackie?
Nope.
I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that we have begun our work, but we want to be as deliberative as possible, and we will come with an update as quickly as possible.
And I would just thank the public for the patience that it's going to take to make that make sense. So thank you.
All right. On to our regularly scheduled agenda. It's time for the work plan and budget from the Better Bennington Incorporation. We have most of their board members here, it looks like, if not all. Not all, but many. Enough. And Keith Carey will be leading the conversation, I believe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Keith Carey, the current president at the BBC.
You speak right into the mic, Keith. It's picky.
Is this better?
Yep.
All right. I don't use mics that often. So I just wanted to say before we get going that the last 7 months have been a huge ordeal in transition, waiting for us to find a new executive director. And I want to say thank you to all of the board members. They have stepped up and done a fantastic job keeping the BBC going, all of the events in Mayfest. I have tried to do some communication, have not done the greatest job at that. That is on me. But the board has done an amazing job. I would like to announce that we have found an executive director. I'd like to introduce her briefly. Ali Elwell Zayas, and she has a great background in economic development and research in revitalizing underutilized rural areas. So we're really excited to work with her. Welcome. So we are going to get her started early July. We're hoping to get her up to speed and running as soon as she gets in the door. So that is my goal, so we can stop doing as much as we have been doing and just focus on the development of all the stuff, the other work that we need to do. With that, I'd like to introduce Susan Ahmed and Jim Martinez. I'm going to pass the baton for them to do the presentation because they are far better at this kind of thing than I am. So thank you.
Thank you, Keith, and welcome, Ali. We are very excited to have Ali on board. I'm Susan. This is Ahmed, if everyone doesn't know, and Jim Martinez. We have a presentation for you. We can take it slide by slide, but I do want to stop along the way and explain some things. But to the board members, to the select board members, we did put detailed work plans and detailed budgets in your packets, and for anybody out there who wants them, they're in the packet. This is just going to give you an overview to what the work we've done. So our 2026-27 budget presentation. Join me, Ahmed. We wanted to start by making sure you and the community knew who the BBC was and how we operate. So, next slide, please. I could dance, we'll keep going.
Okay, so especially for the new people in town or just the people that are not familiar with the BBC, we just created the next slide to introduce you a little bit to the BBC. All of the information that is in front of you, and also another reason to why we have everything in the packet is because a presentation is really not the best platform to communicate the entire organization. So all of this information that you're seeing is available in the packet, available on the website, but this is the mission statement, vision statement, and our diversity inclusion statement. The next slide is a better presentation slide to explain the BBC. So the BBC did not come out of scratch. It did not come out of someone having a really good brainstorming session and coming out of it. It's following the systems and the template of the 4 points approach set by Main Street America, which is pretty national. And it basically organizes the work of every downtown organization into 4. A design portion, promotions, economic vitality, and organization. And within Vermont itself, also especially for everyone that is new, you guys might have guessed already that we don't have a mayor system. We have these awesome guys. We have select board systems. So especially in the state of Vermont, and also not every organization can just call itself, I'm the official organization of anything. There are real things. So Bennington is probably one of the 24 designated downtowns in the state of Vermont. You'll see a little visual here. Not every town has it. Not every village has it. And basically, this gives us a lot of benefits for the entire town that has a designated downtown organization, including the Downtown and Village Center Tax Credit, Downtown Transportation Fund, priority consideration for state grants, traffic calming signing option, priority consideration by state building and general services, special assessment district, Act 250, neighborhood development area. So this is just a general note to again say, the BBC is not an event production entity. Events happen to be at the forefront of what the BBC does. Otherwise, these are a lot of the values that the Better Bennington organization stands on.
I wanted to say about the committees, just a little bit of explanation about them. The organizational committee is made up of the executive officers of the board, as well as our chairs from the other committees. So it's a group of 6 at the moment, but we have economic vitality, promotions, which Ahmad chairs that. I'm sorry, Keith Carey charges economic vitality, and Mike McDonough is in charge of, is the chair of design. So we work through these groups to the rest of the board. And I just wanted to mention, all of these are where we welcome anybody to join these committees, except the org. If you wanted to join any one of our committees, the public is more than welcome to do so.
And we do. The Better Bennington currently has a lot of committee members that are not on the Better Bennington board.
Yep.
So if there's anything from here that sparks interest of you, we'll get you connected to the chair of that committee. So if we go to the next slide, please. We'll start by focusing a little bit on design, because design is also pretty on the forefront. So design is for creating the inviting, inclusive atmosphere, historic character, foster accessible, people-centric, and I want to say real examples from the past couple of years, from the Walloomsac Riverwalk revitalization, to the Pockets Park, to a little bit things on the art end, like the barn quilts, and recently the sculpture installs in downtown Bennington. That all goes under the design committee. In their 26, 27 work plans, these are the things that they want to work on, so we can't really answer much questions on them. But the committee is interested in looking into advocacy for town facade improvement related to the loan program, as in if the BBC can start promoting for the revolving town loan program over things related to beautification of the storefronts and the businesses in front, not necessarily being a new business. The other one, the committee is looking into downtown furniture, kind of going off of the pretty mooses and cats that we have, but to have Adirondack chairs and other infrastructure. The street infrastructure that is currently happening, but improving it from wayfinding to the Bennington in Bloom, which is the initiative that puts flowers in all of the pots downtown. And of course, developing the continued project on art installation, organizing Art Fest, and other opportunities for public art. If we go next. So promotions, this is the committee that I chair. I would say a lot of our work in the past year was a lot of cleaning up. For a lot of the community members that check their email, In the past year, we were finally able to segment all of our contacts. Now we have way better email communication between the BBC and all of our lists, from stakeholders to downtown businesses, and actually activating our tourism list of over 2,000 emails. Some of the new projects that we're working on is actually using some of the segmented contacts that we created and the platforms that we use. We're already in the works of basically hiring a dedicated photographer at every event, and soon hiring videographers as well. The tourism e-blast so far has been great, and we want to do more of them. We're looking at quarterly sponsored campaigns between socials and other platforms. Still looking into hosting 4 workshops for downtown business owners and representatives, and also, of course, our regular niche of promoting the downtown signature events. Next. Economic vitality. Full transparency, Keith Carey, the board president, just took over this to kind of breathe some new energy into it. You guys all, like, this is one of the opportunities in which it's on the forefront are organizing things such as the public awareness forums. You guys might remember the select board candidate forum that happened last year. Some of the Beans and Bagels, which is a morning community engagement between business owners and property owners. The economic vitality is fully going to take over for the upcoming year, the coordination of Small Business Saturday, and this is going to come out of an announcement soon, but also, as you guys know, the local option tax has been a part of the town conversation now. The BBC, together with the town and with the Southwest Vermont Chamber of Commerce Foundation, are working on a public awareness forum. None of us are in a place where we're trying to sell it. It's going to be a public awareness forum happening on July 25th at the Bennington Theater. Accessible, walkable downtown. If you can make it, we're gonna create something to RSVP just so it's under the capacity limit of the Bennington Theater. We're hoping it's gonna be a platform of panelists and a discussion on the option tax. If we go next, we'll have the org committee that I think Susan explained pretty perfectly. But so you guys know, we've been really dedicated to this in terms of hiring a consultant to advise us on a lot of the things that we really, with full transparency, really wanted to do before Ali started, fixing a lot of the bylaws, a lot of the procedures, and we didn't want to do it by ourselves. We got a great consultant that was recommended to us by the downtown program, by the state, and we hired and onboarding the executive director. So if we go next.
She wasn't hired when we did this.
I think he was going to say she's worth her weight in gold.
Yeah.
What he's going to say.
So if we go next. So this is kind of something also to kind of better explain about the Better Bennington Corporation in terms of where we stand. There's a lot of chit chat. Are we a sub part of the town or not? We're a separate organization that had to go through its own designation and its own accreditation process on a regular basis. However, we love to believe that the BBC Board of Directors and the Bennington Select Board are to some extent on an equal, because we don't really report to each other at all. We just do this. We present our budget to you. But otherwise, this is its chart, where we have the BBC Executive Committee, which is the org committee, one chair from each committee, and then the Executive Committee next to the Executive Director. The Executive Director primarily works with the 2 staff people who also manage all of the really great volunteers that we have, which we will talk about probably in the next slide, maybe.
Maybe. Don't remember.
Okay. Us. So this is currently what the BBC consists of. Keith Carey, board president. Great to have a downtown business owner, not only on the board, but as the president of our organization. And Keith is the new chair of the Economic Vitality Committee. Susan Plaisance, secretary. Colleen McQuaid of Juniper Lane, vice president of the board. Mike McDonough, chair of the design committee. Ahmad, myself, chair of promotions. Shelley Colvin, our treasurer. Also on our board, we have Michael Keane. Mike Cutler, who you all might know as, what's his character name? As Colonial Mike, or from Cat TV. Jim Martinez, who's going to present on the budget. He's the money guy. Michael Madison from Madison's Pub and Madison's Brewery and Restaurant and 421 Craft Bar and Kitchen. Michaela Facette, Director of Communications at VNA and Hospice of Southwestern Region. And Scott Grimlyon, Regional Planner from the BCRC. Next, please. So now we're just going to speak a little bit more, again, about the things that are in the forefront. So everything that we've presented on so far is truly a lot of the valuable work that goes on at the downtown organization. But next, you will see that we operate the Downtown Visitor Center, and that is by itself a whole portion of the BBC volunteers that aren't the event volunteers. So the Better Bennington Corporation operates the Downtown Visitor Center thanks to our staff in coordination with coordinating with a lot of the community members that bring over flyers, brochures, maps, so the docents have a lot of materials to direct and speak to tourists and through hikers and town visitors. The next one is the online downtown directory. So this is a new service that truly I feel like got integrated into the organization real quick. This was truly an update that happened in 2020, 2021 for the downtown organization to start offering a free platform for all members to be listed. So in the last year, the Better Bennington website, which you can also find as Downtown Bennington, had 40,000 unique visitors, which is great. And so truly, all of the new businesses, for example, we have Recoupage. They're great. They're still up and running. But in the meantime, while they're getting their new business in place, the best way for people to find them online and their address, look up Recoupage, you're going to see the BBC listing. So this is a great value to new businesses as they're coming up and starting to run, to have some online presence and a way for them to be found online on a page that pretty much shows tiny bio, address, hours, and their category. And then when it comes to established businesses, it's still something that Google gets you all the searches. The Better Bennington website helps visitors and tourists find our downtown businesses faster. Next. Our new e-blasts. So all of you might have started receiving some of them. We have two e-blasts. One that is the Downtown Bennington Insider. We basically have 2,000 organic tourism subscribers that just get regular information and updates and promotions primarily around downtown events and happenings. And then we have another newsletter that basically only goes to downtown business and property owners. So we're really trying to get better downtown engagement with the members. It's very time consuming for any of our staff to be going business to business. So we're really trying our best. So now instead of Kaylin putting 50,000 steps a day, we're trying that we'll send an e-blast, gather as many downtown specials, so then Kaylin hits up the people that did not respond to the e-blast. So that already happened with gathering specials for Hemmings and Mayfest and other updates. Check your inbox. There's one going to be there at 6:30 a.m. for you to take a really exciting new survey that is the Downtown Community Survey. We want to gather some information, especially as Ali is getting started, some information, feedback loops, anything from the things you like about the downtown to things you like to see in the downtown. So especially if you're on that list, refresh at 6:30 in the morning. Next, please. The events, which really puts us out here. And again, look at us. Mayfest got organized without an executive director. Harvest Fest, guess what? Halfway there. Again, events is on our forefront of the organization because that's one of the main signifiers, main things that we do to show evidence of how much people the Better Bennington is attracting to the downtown. But trust me, all the other slides before are also attracting people to the downtown. It's not exclusive to the events. But since we're here, and thank you, Sammy Rustina, for the shout out, we still have a few more Hemmings to go through. We're really grateful for the partnership with Hemmings Hemmings Motor News. The Better Bennington Corporation wants to thank Heritage Family Credit Union because they sponsored the live music this year. We're just fundraising for the music, then booking the music. That's the role of the BBC. And I want to make sure that we're saying this so Hemmings are also getting the credit that they get. We're not naming it after them for no reason. It's the Hemmings Cruise In, and the Thursday Night Live comes after. Mayfest already happened. Thank you a lot, especially to the select board members that volunteered at Mayfest. Coming up, tradition, 16 July, Midnight Madness. After that, the second annual Arts Fest. No vendors, nothing at all. It's a great afternoon of creating art together. Most of the area art organizations are going to be there. We have 13 entities confirmed. It's a great opportunity to spend an afternoon from noon to 4 p.m. at the downtown Riverwalk, create art, meet the art institutions, especially if you have kids. If you didn't take them to the museum, you don't know if they're interested in the museum. But if the museum is there, you might find your kid a new hobby. October 17th, Harvest Fest, and November 28th, Small Business Saturday.
And that is the same day as the Trail Fest Arts Fest is the same day as the Trail Fest. So there'll be activities on both sides of the street.
So Art Fest will be happening right behind the Bank of Bennington. Trail Fest will be happening at the Bennington Skate Park. They are connected by the same pathway. What we're hoping for, and we are talking and coordinating, is that, hey Jim, is that on, is that Trail Fest will attract the outdoor audience, will attract the art audience, cross-promote both, great time downtown, all for free. Next, please. Okay, and guess what? We're not done. So we do a lot of events that are on a much smaller scale. So we do ribbon cuttings with new businesses, beans and bagels with participating hosts. We did some member advocacy, such as the Select Board Candidate Forum with the Town of Bennington, an informational forum with the Town of Bennington, community conversations with the Town of Bennington and Southwest Vermont Chamber of Commerce, the Billboard Project with the Town of Bennington. When it comes to arts, culture, entertainment, and more audience engagement, we work and sponsor the Vermont Arts Exchange Alex Torres concert, the Street Banner Project with the Town of Bennington and Southwest Tech, Juneteenth with the SVSU, Make Music Day that just happened with Frank Barnes, the sculpture installations in partnership with NBOSS, and Art Fest, truly in partnership with all of the area art organizations in conjunction with Trail Fest. Some new pictures from last year. So truly, thanks to everyone that joins our ribbon cuttings, come to Beans and Bagels and other community conversations, truly supports by signing up to volunteer at the events that we do. The Walloomsac project has been great. Truly, you guys remember how that space looked like and now has art. The partnership-based events like Hemmings, the BBC-produced events, a lot of collaboration efforts and initiatives, and direct downtown beautification work.
And I do want to remind everybody that all the events that the BBC does throughout the course of the year are all free to everyone. Okay? Okay, on to the budget. We're going to swap mics with Jim and Shelley, or just Jim, or Shelley.
I don't have a.
So again, you can move to the next slide. This is just a pretty picture of our budget. The Select Board has the packet, but Jim and Shelley are going to go over the budget for you. If you guys have any questions.
No, okay. Did everybody get this in their, I'm Jim Martinez. Did everybody get this in their packet? Has everybody seen this?
Jim, we have information, just not these charts.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the budget.
Okay. I don't have a presentation. I've been out of commission for the last 10 days. But I'm here in case you have any questions about anything you may have. But if they've got it. Yeah. But if they don't have it, then we're going to.
You have it, right?
We have a copy of the budget.
Okay. Do you have any questions about anything you see or have seen? Or concerns or thoughts?
So Jim, don't bury the lead.
We were very thoughtful when we looked at what we did in 25 and 26 and what 26 and 27 is going to look like. You can see from the pie chart where most of our funding comes from through the DID, and then what happens outside of it. We've done some work over the last year, really thanks to Susan and Ahmad, on more fundraising in relation to our events. But we have been very conservative with really looking at what next year is going to look like. We did have some savings in 25 and 26 because we were, for a number of months, without the executive director. So we did save some money on salaries and some, like board executive director development initiatives. So those will come back into play in 26 and 27. So we expect, some slight, increases in expenses, but we are relatively balanced year over year.
Michelle's referencing, Shelley's referencing the 25-26, and if you looked at it, we showed a pretty decent profit this year, but we certainly don't expect that. Yeah, I know, right? It's good, except for the board member really had to. I have to tell you, as a newbie here on the board, what I saw happen at Mayfest was impressive, and I know they're probably used to this. I was not. That was my first Mayfest. I attended every year. I've never seen what goes on behind the scenes. This board was amazing. The way they worked together as a team and took care of everything, I couldn't be more impressed. So it's nice to be involved in an organization like this. So again, for 26-27, you notice a lot smaller number because we had those savings that Shelley just referenced. Do we have that in the next slide? No, or is this it? This is it? That's okay. All right. So we just give them a pretty picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Jim,
yes.
I think the most important thing is that you're asking for exactly the same amount from the Downtown Improvement District as you were last year. So I just want to make sure everybody understands there's no increase requested.
We took a real thorough look at this. We went through every line to see what we need. And as Shelley said, we were definitely conservative. So we think with what we gave you, we should be fine for 26-27.
Question, if you don't mind.
No, go.
And also, as Jim mentioned earlier, we have been a lot more diligent with sponsorships and applying for grants for our events. So that's a huge addition to our budget that we don't have to ask the town for or the DID for. So I think that next year, that number will grow with Ally on board, and now I know how to apply for a grant. So.
Nancy?
Question on memberships. How much does it cost a business owner to be a member? Is this a one-time or is this every year?
That's member. So that line there is only for members for people or businesses that want to join outside the DID. We do not charge our members inside the DID. We have an old model on our website, and I think it's $300 a year. It's a yearly fee for, say, if Walmart wanted to join the BBC, they would be required to pay that $300 yearly.
Which is why it's such a small number right now.
Yeah.
And my understanding is we've never gone after those.
No.
We've never tried to build that number.
Which is on our docket this year.
But we will, this year, start trying to build that number.
Okay, and Jim, I'll remind you that I do the calling on people.
I called on Nancy. I saw her hand go up.
Since we will be entertaining a motion, I assume to release to accept the work plan and budget and release the funds, I will open with questions from the public if there are any. Come on up. Please come up to the please come up to the microphone so Cat TV can hear you and identify yourself for the record. Thank you.
Marcia Quackenbush, Bennington. I would like to know what exact area does the BBC cover downtown?
It's very convoluted. I'm going to turn that one over to Keith. It goes from basically, it starts at Ramontos, no, right at Ramontos to the end, right at the end of Stewart's.
Yeah, Stewart's.
Sorry, from Stewart's all the way down to the museum, community market. And then there are some side streets along the side. It doesn't go to where Hawkins House is. It doesn't go that way on North Street. And where does it go on South? Just up to Friendly's, Old Friendly's.
It goes to
Yes, to the W Collective. So it's like a T, but there's some outlining areas if there are businesses there. Because again, only the businesses, no residential taxes are being taken to fund the DID. Yeah.
So the only people that pay the DID tax are the commercially rented portions of any property in the DID. We do have the downtown, designated downtown with the state, which extends to the Ben High, extends out a little bit further on North Street, and all those little bracketed areas that give us access to that funding for development. But the DID is only the commercial space portions of businesses, of properties between Community Market, Stewart's, Magnifico, what is the name? They've changed names. Magnifico and Friendly's. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
And it's our belief that because those commercial properties pay the taxes, or the commercial portion of that property pay the taxes, the residing businesses within those commercial properties should automatically, as well as the property owners, automatically be members. And then anyone outside of that DID would be paying a membership fee.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else in the public? We have one online. Go ahead.
Good evening, Sam Racino, Bennington, Vermont, once again. You mentioned West Chamber, Vermont. Can you explain that or expand on that statement?
What did he say?
What did he say?
I didn't understand the question, Sam.
The West Chamber? You mentioned the West County Chamber?
They're just a partnership with us. They're not part of the DID, and they're, I believe that there's a coordinated concept of we're a member of them and they're a member of us, but that's all just a one hand washing the other. They're not actually part of the BBC at all.
Okay, can you change it to Southwestern? When you say Western, people think New York
you're talking
State.
the title. It's the Southwestern Vermont Chamber of Shires, Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure the title these days. Sorry, Matt.
Okay. Secondly, how many buses come into Bennington last over a few years?
I missed that, Sam.
How many tour buses have come into the town last few years?
I will be honest, I don't have a number for that or a statistic for that. I know the previous director, Jeannie, was working on some of that, and even the director after John Shanahan, Jenny, was working on that. We found that a lot of that bus tourism went away after COVID, and it's been a struggle to get that back into the downtown.
Right.
But we are trying.
know,
That's part of what the Economic Development Committee is going to start working on, is how we can address some of that as well.
Right, and as you know, if you got a tour bus coming in, you better have a spokesperson on deck that day, because they're going to be looking for restaurants, and the first thing on the letter is where are the bathrooms. So I hate to be blunt on that, but if you're traveling and you're stopping into a town, that's what it is right there. So it's a comfort to hear that there's no other increase from last year. You're working and trying to do diligent work. I'm glad you elected a director. But we're going with Adirondack Furniture?
No.
It's not 100%. It's an idea that's being proposed to just bring some color to the downtown. So as people are walking by or driving by, that the downtown or the areas of the designated downtown, as well as the DID, just kind of pop and make people want to just stop, hang out, sit down for a minute, maybe go from business to business, rest up while they're shopping or eating, using that restroom, Sam. We're just trying to different ideas. So if you've got another idea, I'd love to hear it, because...
Well, how about, you mentioned the downtown businesses. Have you put into your email or whatever, how do you notify the masses, businesses that are outside the downtown area? Naturally, you're not going to snuff away if a business wants to be part of BBC that's not incorporated in the downtown district.
That is the membership program that we're trying to work on and develop, that we're obviously not going to say, anyone in the downtown isn't going to not tell tourists or visitors that there aren't other businesses around. I know I tell people about the Monument, I tell people about the White Rocks, Henry's, all sorts of things that are outside of the downtown. So, but the BBC's focus and where our funding comes from is the DID and the designated downtown. So that is where we're going to focus our energy, purely from a standpoint of those are the folks paying us or contributing to us to do that for them.
Yeah, and one final question. How strong is your bond between BBC and the Chamber of Commerce?
As far as partners and collaborators, they're pretty good. I just remember it as the Bennington Chamber, and I always forget that it's the Southwestern Vermont Chamber now.
Or not. Well, that's okay. I'm still old school. I'll call it the Chamber anyways, but thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Should we tell them about our Go Match here?
Go Match?
Go Match.
Hey, I just wanted to mention to Sammy that we've already committed with Wade Tours. They're going to bring an entire busload downtown in October. It is on their website. You can take a look.
Anyone else in the public? Were you just waving, or were you? Okay. Well then, I would hear a motion.
I've got a couple more questions.
Yeah, after we have the motion.
As far as
after we have the motion.
Oh, sorry.
We talk after we have the motion. Could I hear a motion, please, to accept the work plan and budget as presented, and to release the Downtown Improvement District funding?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Now, Nancy.
All set?
Yep.
As far as the BBC and history in the downtown, when you were here a few months ago, you said someone else would be doing the history. Is that going to stay that way?
I don't think I heard the question right, because all I heard was history.
I thought when some of you were here a few months ago, they said as far as history, the BBC would just be doing the art, somebody else would take care of the history. Is that how it's going to work going forward?
I'm confused. Yeah.
Nancy, are you referencing the presentation done about Arts Fest and the expansion of that? Because I don't remember a conversation about history during that. I do know that there was somebody doing the museum was doing little signs of look across the street and this is what you see. That was the Bennington Museum, but I don't think that was part of our presentation.
Okay.
We might have referenced it, but I don't think we actually have anything to do with that. That's the Bennington Museum, I believe.
Okay. I just thought when you were here talking about putting more sculptures on the walkway, I thought somebody said going forward the BBC would just be doing art and somebody else would do history?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
We can go back and try to figure that out, but I don't remember that, Nancy.
And I'm concerned that I don't think some of the business owners in the downtown understand. Now that we no longer have zoning bylaws for parking in the downtown, they don't understand what's going to happen when development goes forward. I explained it to a couple of them last year, and they were very concerned nobody had talked to them. Is there some way you can make sure they all understand that?
That's a great idea. Part of what I'd like to do with the Economic Vitality Committee is to have a couple information sessions with either the property owners or downtown businesses where we pull somebody in to have this conversation about stuff that we should be advocating or not advocating or just informing the downtown of. If you'd like, Nancy, reach out to me and I can possibly put that on my schedule to get the information actually out there, because this is the first time hearing about it.
And the other thing, I don't know how many business owners have ever seen the plans that the Select Board approved during COVID. Very detailed plans for the downtown, and I think it'd be helpful for all the business owners to see those plans. I don't know, would they be on the Planning Commission website, Dan?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Nancy, but if you're talking about the update to the zoning bylaws, those are on the website.
Well, I could look at the downtown, see the benches, the garbage cans, the bike racks. I thought that was the whole big package of everything that got approved during COVID.
The only thing that I recall being approved during COVID was the form-based zoning that was approved. Yeah, that was after COVID. But.
Okay. And has the BBC ever talked about putting the parking meters back in on Main Street, North Street, and South Street?
We have not talked about it. I know that I personally would be probably against that, just because my customer base loves being able to sit down, park, spend 2 hours, have a drink, and not pay. I literally had to scramble all over my car in North Adams to find quarters on Thursday to go to a restaurant. So parking meters, unless you're going to enforce it, or parking tickets, thank you. I think that they're not as attractive. They don't generate as much. I'm speaking off the cuff here, not with any information. I don't think they generated as much revenue as what the appearance to tourists, how much that would counter it. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm not eloquent sometimes.
I just don't think a lot of people understand, as the apartments start to go in and some of the properties, well, nobody has to provide parking on their site anymore. And as those cars start taking over the public lots, I'm very concerned that people wanting to shop and eat in the downtown are going to have a very difficult time finding a place to park. And I just want to make sure anybody renting a space knows before they make that commitment, depending on where they are, parking may be a real issue in the future.
So that might be another session that we have with the property owners within the DID or the designated downtown, that we, inform them or bring in a specialist to take a look at that. Again, it's not something that I've really thought about, because we're focused on the commercial properties and the visibility, the accessibility of the downtown. I know that when we did a parking plan, 5 to 10 years ago, there was plenty of parking. People just need to walk. You can't have the mall mentality where you can park as far away from the mall as possible, still see the mall, and walk to it. There's parking that's as close as a mall parking lot to downtown. People just don't want to walk to it because they don't see the store in front of them. And that's a perception piece. So maybe some more wayfinding signs in conjunction with the town. Parking here, businesses here, commercial district here. Maybe that kind of would work, Nancy, but I don't have the answer to that, because I don't know what the current study is for the amount of parking we have to businesses.
I'll catch up with you, because
please do. And just reach out to me.
I don't want somebody signing a lease not understanding what could happen 6 months down the road.
And that's going to be on the property owner giving the information to their tenants. So that's going to be on them. I can't give a new tenant, not knowing who they are, the information about that. They would have to reach out to us or have access to it through the town, property owner, or something of that nature.
Okay.
But feel free to reach out anytime, Nancy. I'm always at the Grotto, except when I close to come to here. So,
Ed.
So I probably make this comment every year. It's really a comment, not a question. To discuss budgets at the end of June could be confusing to the public. We did this work in December and January. Your fiscal year starts on July 1st. Yes. So we are doing the final approval for your fiscal 26-27 budget tonight, although we have seen these numbers before. And we've done this crunching before. We sort of knew what this would look like before. I just want to make it clear to the public that we are here talking about your July 1st to June 30th, 26 to 27 fiscal year. Thank you.
I'd just like to add that I really appreciated having the breakdown by your committees with your individual committee work plans. I think that was very useful to me, so thanks for breaking that down like that. Jackie?
First, thank you all for everything that you do for the downtown. It's always wonderful to see the events, and thank you for this information. It really gives me a lot of confidence that you're going to continue to be part of sort of the vitality of our downtown. So I appreciate that. Looking through, I see some really marginal growth in a lot of these categories. I see, I maybe might say, some modest growth in the marketing budget and some ambitious growth in your event income. So I really hope that that comes to fruition. Do you think that, comparing to the actual numbers, it looks like 50% growth, but I'm guessing that probably not all of the revenue from Mayfest was on here. But do you think that that's a realistic target for event revenue?
Yeah. So we are revamping the way we do Mayfest and Harvest Fest, and vendor rates are going to go up again. Last year they went up, but only by $5 to the vendors. So we're going to be revamping the pricing structure on that. And we did have a buy Mayfest, get a discount on Harvest. No more. But we're already kind of stuck in it for the balance of this year. So projecting for next year, they will be treated as two separate events with no discount for repeat people. We're also, as I said, increasing the vendor registration, and we're also in consideration of upping the rates for vendors who request certain spots. So premium position rates. I know.
Jackie, our rates have been historically well below market.
Yes.
And they all know it. So it's not just us. All the vendors know that we've been way below market. So we're just trying to bring it back up closer to market. And we want to give Allie a challenge when she starts her new job.
Perfect, yeah. Well, I certainly...
sorry, Jack, but I will add is that we had, for Mayfest, twice the amount of sponsorship dollars that we had from area businesses that we had in 2025.
Oh, that's
we doubled that number.
Yeah, so I mean, certainly you've had a different year this past year than you have previously, and I think it's just really fantastic that from the outside, I think, nobody would have noticed that, except for, some of the water cooler discussion that maybe happens on social media. So your point that the BBC is not an employee of the select board or whatever is well taken. I mean, you showed the chart up here that about half of your funding comes from the DID district. So really, we're your client, not your boss. We're your client.
We'd like to say partner.
And I think we collaborate really well. But I want to flip that on its head a little bit. As the organization that we really hire for your expertise in the downtown, in economic vitality, I'd like to ask if there's any challenges that you've seen to keeping the foot traffic in downtown, to keeping that vibrancy that's sort of outside of what your organization is in your jurisdiction of, and that this board should be doing to be part of that solution.
I don't want to wade into it too much, but one of the issues is likely vacant buildings. Right? It's just not good to see vacant buildings when people are here shopping, right?
Sure.
They'll shop and they'll enjoy their shopping experience, but they'll walk back and when they go home, they'll say, "Gee, I see an awful lot of empty buildings there. Is it going downhill?" So I think that's being addressed. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, great. And so that's sort of outside of what your role is to focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. All right, thank you.
I want to add something. I mean, especially because this is a budget presentation, I want to address it that, like approaching this, at least we came at you without asking for an increase. But this is my pitch to saying that technically we do need more support. Technically, the 50% revenue being from the DID tax, looking at just where we are now in terms of hiring full-time staff and how much full-time staff would like to get paid. And the bigger picture that I'm getting to is because all of this information is public, you can look it up. And this is one of the things that we're really going to work on. But when you look it up, the downtown organization, executive director, is one of the least paid out of all 24 designated downtown organizations. So if we really love and want to support this organization, we need to be mindful that the work that is all of the work that's been happening is truly down to bare budget of how can we make the most out of having nothing. And same thing stands, like the community as a whole can go for months and months being like, why didn't you hire someone in a couple of weeks? That's not mindful hiring. And at the same time, we would love your help sorry, Ali, you're not here, that the next time we have an executive director opening, that the package is more appealing for more candidates. So this is the thing, like, I don't want to leave this presentation making everyone feel like we're this, this organization with way too much backing and support. Thankfully, we have businesses that are down to sponsor our events, because if it wasn't for business sponsorship, we wouldn't have had an event budget. Truly, the money that goes into this organization is going into paying its staff, period. Anything that's fun, anything that's vibrant, that is all of these guys' volunteer hours and asking for business sponsorships, learning new skills and applying for grants. So again, putting Bennington and Bennington's population and how much the people in the downtown organization are getting paid compared to any other downtown, especially if you want to look at ones with a similar population. So I don't want to get into the history of it, but is it that John Shanahan for the longest time didn't want to get paid and he thought he was doing it all a good favor? Maybe, but didn't set it up well for the next executive directors. So especially because this is a budget presentation, I want to make this point very clear that yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, and I think maybe to your point, I actually don't know the answer to this, so maybe someone there does or someone here does, but do vacant downtown spaces get assessed the same DID tax as, yeah, they do? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Allie, he's talking about 30 years from now. Just FYI, all right?
For what it's worth, I think you're all fantastic, and I don't see a reason that we'd hire someone else to do this work.
I saw Jim and then Clark.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you for all you do and for the presentation. And I just wanted to second the value of the collaboration work that you do. People come to this area for a lot of reasons, and most all of them are looking for something else to do. And a lot of that involves going to businesses in the downtown area. I speak to that as someone who spends a significant amount of my time on the trail networks in the area, and I can tell you people that come from all over come to our trails, and they all are looking for a place to go. So I applaud your collaboration with TrailFest and anything we can do to help make those connections to people that are coming for one thing and definitely looking for opportunities in the downtown. And the only other thing I would like to say is I looked ahead on the agenda, and it appears that I'm the new select board liaison to the Better Bennington Corporation. So
I
put
might
me
have
on your
heard
email
that.
list, please.
I might have. But we're looking forward to having you.
Spoil our surprises. Clark.
Yes, in keeping with what Jim and Ed have said, your organization, I really appreciate all you do. And I think our next agenda item will spill over in an area personally that I think is very important to your organization. I notice your marketing funding is not real impressive for what the load you need to carry. And I'm hoping somehow this board can help you expand that. And I think if you get more marketing support, I think it can only be a positive benefit for the town. And something that Jim said that kind of spills over, I realize what you do, but in my mind, the greatest marketing we have are the people walking the streets of Bennington, because time and time again, I get stopped by people around the town and say, hey, I'm hungry. Or is there a place I can do this for my child or whatever? So I encourage the people of Bennington to be an extension of what you guys do. To actually, when you see visitors in town, what can I do? They ask questions, they look lost, say, hey, can I help you? And I think that carries a pretty big stick when people go home. They say, hey, that town is really friendly and I needed something, and folks stepped up.
Anyone else? I did have one quick question. I see an asterisk after the DID funding, and then another one on line 7 of the state funding vibrancy grant. There's 2 asterisks. Generally, those are there to lead me to another, like a note.
I think those are left.
Yeah, Jim and Shelley and Keith worked on the budget, and they had some notes within those cells for the rest of the board to explain those cells.
Okay, so those should have come out.
Yeah, they should come out.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing a note, and because I looked. Thanks.
I'll say one last thing before, on what Clark had to say, is I think that the social media for the BBC has never been better. So everyone out there, you remember the VO5 commercial? You tell 1 friend, 2 friends, or whatever it was. Share those posts that we make, get more people to Bennington so we can show them what kind of hospitality we have.
All right, if there's nothing else from the board, we'll call the vote to accept the budget and work plan and release the $100,446 in Downtown Improvement District funding. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I see no abstentions.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the Economic Development Committee presentation, a discussion on the local option tax. Our Economic Development Committee is represented on the Select Board by Jackie Matz, Clark Adams, and Jim Sullivan. So I'm not sure how you guys have arranged to lead this, but take it away.
It's been a minute. Thanks. So we're going to open, I just give a little bit of background on the work that the Economic Development Committee has done so far, and then I'll hand it over to staff to do a presentation on the proposal that we'll hear tonight. So we can go to the first slide, Jonah. So when the Economic Development Committee formed, we thought that we'd start by just understanding some of the challenges that the downtown has been having and some of the opportunities and strengths that were available. So as we looked at that, some of the themes that came up honestly are not going to be surprising to anybody here, right? There's shortages of available housing, of affordable housing, right? We have vacant and underutilized properties in our downtown area. We have some infrastructure needs that have built up over time. And just like every other town in Vermont, and the country for that matter, we're competing, right, for residents, for workers, and for businesses, right? So those were kind of the same challenges that we saw coming up again and again. They all sort of tie into this property tax pressure that we've heard about. It's not all grim news. There are many good strengths that we have here in Bennington as well. We are a regional hub, as you've heard before, for jobs, for services, for healthcare, retail, education, right? There's a lot that Bennington does offer. We have a historic downtown. We have outdoor recreation. We have immense natural beauty around us. And we have a really engaged community of residents, of nonprofits, and of local businesses. So the work of the committee so far really has been focused on how can we build on these strengths that we have while addressing some of the pressures that are limiting the growth, the long-term growth and stability of our town. Next slide, Jonah. So a lot of these challenges, you may realize, are sort of interconnected, right? The housing pressures affect the workforce that we're able to attract, right? The downtown vacancies affect business confidence, they affect foot traffic. The infrastructure and the amenities that we have really impact whether people choose to stay here, whether businesses choose to move here. So it's not separate pieces, they're all kind of, they work together. Some of the opportunities that we've identified were an opportunity to broaden the revenue that the town has beyond just depending on property taxes so heavily. We think there's opportunities to further leverage some outside investments, outside grants. We'd like to support small businesses, obviously, housing development, that kind of growth, and just generally to strengthen Bennington's long-term economic position. Some of this effort is certainly already underway, right? Town staff works really hard. They've worked really hard with housing developers and other partners to identify properties that can take advantage of things like the CHIP funding to have their properties developed, different state housing programs. We continue to make small loans to local businesses. We'd like to do some more of that. Again, it's a funding challenge. We only have so much that we can make as part of that funding. Certainly we've discussed strategies for the downtown vacancies. You heard about that 2 weeks ago. You heard about it a little tonight. You'll hear about it again. And then we're also looking at ways to promote upper story housing on Main Street, to increase accessory dwelling unit development, to do that infill development, and to just help organizations coordinate and collaborate with each other more effectively. The aspiration for all of this really is simple. It's a stronger, more resilient Bennington that continues attracting residents, workers, businesses, and investment. Next slide, Jonah. So in our discussions, there's been a strong emphasis on accountability and visible results. We understand that that's really vital to members of the town to see those things. And so when we look at the investment, we want to make sure that that's aligned with the long-term priorities that we hear from residents in the town, and that it doesn't just get absorbed into business as usual, right? So people should be able to understand where this funding is going. And so our focus has been on projects with measurable impact, on aligning that spending with long-term priorities, on growing the grand list sustainably, improving infrastructure, and just maintaining transparency and public input throughout the process. So that's really the context for the discussion that we're going to have tonight on the local option tax. I think I can say among the Economic Development Committee that we see this as one tool that we can use. It's not a silver bullet. It's not this one thing is going to fix everything else, right? But this is one tool that we can use to help diversify revenue, to reduce long-term pressure on property taxes, and to support strategic investment that's aligned with the priorities we hear from the community. So I want to really thank the town staff and everyone that's worked so hard to sort of look into it and get us to this point that we can have a really founded discussion tonight on something that we think could be really helpful for the town. And with that, I'll turn this over to Jonah. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jackie. Shannon, maybe you should stand up here with me as well. The two of us, along with David Conwill. Again, I'm Jonah Spivak, Communications Coordinator. I've just invited Shannon Barsati up with me. We've been doing a number of these presentations, similar to the vacant properties, reaching out to stakeholder groups, having some small group meetings to discuss the idea of local option tax, primarily because we have some new information available to us. So it did make sense for us to revisit the issue. I did see one comment online. Someone was like, didn't we vote on this once already? We did. Several years ago, there was a discussion about local option tax that did not pass. And in fact, I was one of those people that voted against it. So I think it is important that the reason we're here today is because this is now, I think, 7 years later, and there's new information available that makes sense for us to take another look at this. So in the presentation today, we're going to take a look at a number of things. What is a local option tax? What are the tax rates around us? Who pays it? How much money would be generated? How would the money be used? And what we're hearing from the community so far. And of course, this was something that emerged out of the Economic Development Committee, as you just heard, and staff was tasked with this work of doing this outreach. And it's not an easy presentation to give. I mean, there's only one thing worse than a 4-letter word. That's a 3-letter word, tax. So that is our presentation tonight. And we'll start with what is a local option tax. And that's the 6% that you pay for sales and use taxes. There's also a 9% rooms and meals tax and 9% alcohol tax. And if you're in the cannabis industry, I learned that in addition to that 6% tax, there's a 14% excise tax. So for cannabis dispensaries, it's actually 20% tax. So sales and use tax, that's, to be perfectly clear, sales tax is the definition of a regressive tax. And in order to justify having a tax like that, we need to have a good reason to do it. However, in Vermont, many items are exempt from sales taxes. Some pretty broad categories, groceries and food, are exempt, including produce, meat, dairy, bakery items, but not including prepared food. So if you're purchasing a prepared item from a grocery store, that would be subject to sales tax. Clothing and footwear is mostly exempt, including diapers, coats, hats, shoes. Medicines are exempt. And in the category of agriculture, machinery, fertilizer, supplies, items used for farming are also exempt from sales tax. Rooms, meals, and alcohol. Rooms and meals, that's for lodgings and when you eat out, but it also, as I mentioned, could apply to takeout food. Alcohol purchased in stores is also a taxable item. So, one of the things that is different this time around, when Bennington first considered an option tax, Bennington was the outlier. Now that has reversed. Just this past year for town meeting, 19 towns voted on whether or not they should implement a local option tax. Of those, 14 implemented some form of local option tax, bringing the total to 48 towns in Vermont that currently have local option taxes. And indeed, out of the top 7, only Bennington, the 5th largest town in Vermont, does not have a local option tax. This is quite different from the environment several years ago. We looked at what taxes were like around Bennington, and as you can see, Bennington is on the lower end currently by not having an option tax. Many of the communities around us in Vermont have that option tax, both to the north and east of us. Of course, Washington County, 7% tax, Albany County, 8% tax, Rensselaer County, 8%. Massachusetts, 6.25% in Williamstown, but most of the towns in the Berkshires do also have a local option tax, bringing theirs up higher. Currently, Williamstown does not, and our goal in this presentation is whenever we had a choice of numbers, we stuck with the lowest possible number for the purposes of this presentation. Although I have heard that Williamstown is considering a local option tax. This next slide is another piece of that new information I mentioned at the outset. And in fact, this one came from the Bennington Town Visitor Report, courtesy of the Southwest Vermont Chamber Foundation. What this graphic shows us is the home locations of Bennington's workforce. And as you can see, that square box in the center, that is Bennington. Of course, a fairly large number of our workforce is living in Bennington, but indeed 41% of Bennington's workforce lives outside of Bennington. And this graphic, thanks to cellular technology, shows us the home locations of that workforce. And I might mention, while we're thinking about this, is what it means to be local. Because one of the comments we heard from someone who anecdotally said, I talked to a waitress at a restaurant, and she said, almost all of my customers are local. And I get it. Because if someone asked at the Blue Ben if I was a local, full disclosure, I eat at the Blue Ben a lot, they would probably think I was a local. But actually, I live just over the border in East Hoosick, although I'm a little different than most because I am a property owner and taxpayer in Bennington. But when we're talking about Bennington local option tax, we're talking about just Bennington proper. So even though if you're from Pownell or Woodford or Shasbury, you're locals when you're shopping in Bennington, and you'll be seen that way as locals by people in the stores. But that 41% of people that are working and making their livelihoods in Bennington, myself included,
And me too.
we're not paying to directly support Bennington's taxpayers. And that's an important point. Because indeed, virtually all municipal costs are borne by Bennington taxpayers. I have a little asterisk there. And the asterisk is that we do get some money from grant funds for the town, and we go after those aggressively. But the fact is, those are never assured, and they're shrinking. Now that the ARPA funds have dissolved and gone away, there are less grants available in the future. Currently, all sales tax generated goes to Montpelier. None of it stays local. So when you think about that 41% of our workforce not living in Bennington, that means that a significant portion, and I highlighted this in yellow because we felt this was important, a significant portion of town services and infrastructure use comes from individuals who are not taxpayers. And again, this was from the Bennington Town Visitor Report. This next piece also came from that report. And this was a key one for me as a business owner the first time this came around, because certainly I thought when we thought about Bennington taxing ourselves with a local option tax, surely the burden of that would fall very heavily on Benningtonians. But, and I even sort of in my mind had a guesstimate, maybe 10%, 15% come from Bennington, outside of Bennington. But no, what we learned from this key data point from the Bennington Town Visitor Report was that over 50% of spending activity is from non-residents of Bennington. This is a way for those non-resident users of town resources to pay their fair share. And I want to reflect just a minute on a 1%. So having an additional 1% option tax does not mean you need to change the prices on your menu or on your goods. This additional 1% tax is assessed at the register after the purchasing decision. Not that it makes it any easier, but it means that $20 pizza is going to cost you 20 cents more. That $100 item is going to cost you $1 more. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but taken in sum, it can add up to a lot. Thanks to the state of Vermont, this is the calculation of what the average annual revenue that would have been generated over the last 3 years from a local option tax. It's a little over $1.8 million net. And I say net because the way the local option tax works is 75% of that 1% stays local. 25% goes back to Montpelier, so they even get a cut of that 1%. But that's actually less than it was last year. Last year, it was 30% went to the state. And the reason for that change is because where does that 30% go? It goes to fund something called the pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes which the state pays to municipalities where they have state office buildings or facilities. And in fact, so much money has been being generated by these local option taxes that they have a surplus in that fund. So they reduced it from 30% to 25%. And I'm told by our legislators it's likely that we may see that reduce again to 20% if those surpluses continue, which means that the amount that stays local could potentially grow. I did mention 75% stays local. The state also charges $6.95 per business tax return, just for full disclosure. So in addition to that 25%, they get $6.95 per tax return. But that $1.8 million is a net figure that would come back to this community as a result of that. Another thing that is different from previously, and this is something that resonated with me very strongly as a brick and mortar business owner, which is that 1% local option tax is assessed for online sales. So purchases made from Amazon or eBay would get that 1% additional tax. So as a consumer, that's an important thing to consider, but as a business owner for a brick and mortar store that has been hurt by these online sales, that's something of interest. And do jump in if I ever...
I was just going to note, you know, that $1.8 million, if we were to pass the local option tax right now, that's, I think it's over 10% of the town budget. So it is a very significant number.
So if we had 1% for Bennington, how could we use it? And this was one thing that did intrigue me the first time we had this conversation. And that's a powerful thought. What could we do if we can invest $1 million a year in ourselves, now $1.8 million? What sort of things could we do to transform Bennington? And we have a few categories up here. One, and these are based on some of the things that other communities are doing with taxes. Every town is doing something different with how they use those local option taxes. But property tax relief. So for businesses that are, or for everyone who's a taxpayer in the town of Bennington, if you're concerned about your taxes, this is a way of mitigating taxes. Transformational projects. We saw this last year in our own select board, who trying to make the maximum value out of every penny really ties their hands. And when they have to make a decision like, we're going to invest an extra $300,000 in our paving budget, that's painful, even though we knew that by doing that, we saved ourselves money down the road. Because by repaving roads at an appropriate time, that ensures that they don't totally go to heck and have to be completely redone at larger expense. And that's what kicking the can down the road does for a community. Yeah, you save money in the short run, but you end up getting hurt in the long run. So it's very difficult for the select board not having an additional tool when they're always looking at that one source, the taxpayer, and trying to justify those annual budgets. You could use it to support things like business and housing. This is we talked about vacant properties being a stick that the community can use. This is a way that we can add carrots to what we do for the business community. And expanding marketing efforts is another large bucket. But we took this to the community and we've been getting some feedback. Here's some of the things that we're hearing so far. On the category of economic development, property tax relief has been a recurring theme. Not surprising. Funding the economic development efforts, being able to offer low or no-cost loans to the business community. What about having a grant program for facade improvement in our downtown? What about having grant programs to get small businesses started? Infrastructure improvements, the least sexy idea out there. People don't love talking about investing lots of money in things like filters for our wastewater treatment facility. But you know, that's one of the most important things out there, literally. We also heard a lot about quality of life investments. That top idea on our citizen survey last year for outdoor recreation, synthetic ice rink, reusable year-round. That was one of the ideas, maybe something like that. And my goodness, our pickleball players What a dedicated group, but they're always pushing for more pickleball courts. So that's another thing that we've heard as a desire. What about an outdoor pool as a resource for the community? And as a very popular continuing item, completing the Woolsack Valley Path. So what we're at the point today is we are still learning about what we could or should be doing if we had 1% for Bennington, a local option tax. We are still needing to hear from the community what investments would have the greatest impact for economic development. And what are your ideas for transformational things for Bennington? Ferris wheel. Okay, we've heard that idea. But, think big. This is an opportunity to be able to think big. And creating policies to direct how the money is used or spent, so they won't be swallowed by business as usual, and to ensure that the spending aligns with visible community priorities, and to provide transparency on how those funds are used. So at this point, we're going to kind of pass it back to the select board. Oh, please, yeah.
Thank you, Jonah. Just wanted to make a couple more points. I think it's great that the BBC presented ahead of us because, to Ahmad's excellent point, they're doing so much with so little, right? And I think we can all see when we go to Northside Drive, all the cars at the Marshalls and the Ocean State job lots, many of them with New York or other out-of-state plates, the other investments along Northside Drive and the economic engine that has become. And I think that this is a way with a local option tax to really think about redirecting some of that money back into downtown, whether it's through additional marketing, grant programs, et cetera, more low-interest loans for downtown businesses and startups because, we really need that investment in the downtown. So I think that's one thing that we really need to think about is how to kind of reinvest these funds. And then I think the other piece, in addition to the data that we have from the Chamber Foundation, really thinking about, we may not be the same kind of a tourist mecca of a ski area or Manchester, but we really are a regional hub. I think we can all see that, and how many of us come from other towns, just like, Jonah's coming from Hoosick, I'm coming from Pownell. Even within our town staff, we started to look at the numbers and said, yeah, it really is about 40% of our town staff are not Bennington taxpayers. So I think that those numbers are really important and something that we didn't have when we thought about this 7 years ago. And then, of course, the other huge piece, which is not in the presentation, it's still in development, but the orchards, the resort up at the former Southern Vermont College campus, that project will put Bennington on the map. And if we were able to, again, recapture some of that spending that's going to be happening up on the hill, even if folks don't come downtown, and we hope that they will, this is really an opportunity to do that. And AWRE, I've spoken to them, they're very much in support of the local option tax because it's a way for those funds to be reinvested into Bennington, and that's going to help, them with their visitors to talk about the things that Bennington is doing and that are downtown. And in their DRB application that they just put in, and as well as their Act 250 application, they have a projected revenue of $45 million every year. So when you do the math, and you take 1% of that, even taking out the percentage that goes back to Montpelier, that one project alone could be bringing in almost $350,000 a year in local option tax revenue. So that's something we really should think about, when we bring this to the voters, of the opportunity for that investment back into Bennington.
We did also take a look at how difficult it would be. Is there costs involved to the town in terms of administration to have a local option tax? And the state actually does take care of that for the towns, and basically the town just gets a report and a check. or the equivalent in terms of the local option tax. But what about for the business people? How do they get this implemented? There's also support for business people in how they implement it, and it's really almost as simple as a checkbox on your monthly sales and use form indicating that your town participates in the lot, and they do the calculations for you. So it's just a matter of changing your percentage from 6 to 7% in your point of sale system. So we're going to kind of pass it back to the Select Board and the Economic Development Committee at this point. But what we're looking for in terms of direction for staff is whether we should be continuing this outreach. And if we are, we would like to put an ask out for some funds for the town staff to use. Number one, I think it would be useful to create a informational video just about the facts of what a local option tax is and what it does along the lines of this presentation. And also to do some advertising so we can get the public out to some meetings to provide their input and to learn about the local option tax so they can make an informed choice either way. And assuming that is the will, these next two bullets are kind of only make sense in the context of us continuing some form of outreach. But listening to the community to find out what are those priorities, how should we use that fund, what is the customization for Bennington that makes the most sense, and then starting to draft that policy to ensure that those policies that there's a transparent and inclusive process for identifying specifically how those funds are used. So I hope that makes sense at this point. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. I'm not sure if you want us to just sit down or stay here. That's up to you, but I look to you for guidance. Oh, and I do mention that there is a one-page summary of the items, the information that's in this presentation on the table over there. And most importantly, in the top right corner, there's a QR code that you can use to go right to the town website and submit a comment or an idea or a thought about the local option tax.
Thanks very much. That was very well put together and very informative, I think. I'll turn to my colleagues here on the committee. Did you have anything more to add to that, or what would you like to feel would be their next step here?
So if I have just very briefly, because that was a very comprehensive presentation. Thank you, Joan and Shannon. I just want to say, as a member of the Economic Development Committee, clearly our charge is to do something to support economic development in the community, and we're looking at a couple of really key things. One of the main reasons we want to do something is because of the property tax burden in the community. I don't like paying property taxes any more than anyone else. Trust me on that. And as we say, we rely to do almost anything in this town on property taxes. And as Jonah mentioned, we're very constrained in what we can do because of our complete reliance on property taxes and the limited user fees that we collect. So, as one way to diversify a revenue base, that's in and of itself, and reduce the appearance or the reality of the property tax burden in the community is one of the reasons that we were looking at some ways to diversify revenue sources. And the other really key piece is, as again was mentioned, there's a lot of things we want to do, and we just don't have the capacity to do that because we don't have the funding to do it. We want to invest in economic development initiatives. We want to support small business development in the community. We want to provide leverage to private investment, and we have very, very limited funds to do that now. So, and recognizing that Bennington as a community really in a very real sense is in competition with all those other municipalities that were mentioned in the slides and other municipalities around us that do have more resources to invest in their communities. And if we don't invest in our community in a way to keep us competitive with those, we're going to lose out on a lot of economic development initiatives that are going to go to those other places. And that's only only going to have a long-term negative effect on our grand list, and thus, again, on our property taxes. So I just want to bring it back around to the fact that, we need to do something. The town has positioned itself as well as I think it could possibly do in the way of municipal support and regulatory reform and everything else we can do without looking at some additional revenue, some diversification away from property taxes. So that, in my mind, is really ties us back to the Economic Development Committee. We're doing this so that we can do something to support economic development.
Right. I also am on that committee, and pretty much Jim has stolen my thunder, but the most important thing I think the people of Bennington should take away is that we have to help ourselves. And in order for the select board here to help the people of Bennington help themselves is we have to have a good, viable economic base in this town. We have to grow our grand list, and we have to have additional streams of income to build on that growth. As Shannon mentioned, the Resort on the Hill, if you sit down and actually ran the numbers, the money that place is going to bring to town is phenomenal for addressing the concerns of our public, that is property tax relief, infrastructure, growth, and further business development. I believe that resort's going to be like a bright light on a summer night. It's going to attract a lot of attention, and we have to be able to capitalize on that. I realize the word tax, as Jonah so eloquently put it, is worse than the most four-letter words we aren't allowed to say up here. But I think that this tax is, in fact, a tax for the good of the town. And I don't know how many of you folks do, but in my job and everybody up here, I don't think a day goes by that somebody doesn't come to me and say, why can't we do this? Or here's what we should be doing. And I don't disagree with a lot of what they say, but the one point where we kind of diverge, I ask the question, how are we going to pay for that? And then usually the conversation ends. I would like to be able to say, we are going to pay for that with this money generated as of this tax and the business that tax is generating. You heard me mention to our friends from the BBC how I really wish we could give them more money for marketing. The more people we bring to town, the more money comes to town. The more money comes to town, the more we as Benningtonians can reap the benefits of that. So as I said, Jim stole my thunder, and I'm sure Jackie will probably speak more eloquently than I am. But we got to look out for ourselves. Bennington's got to be taking care of Bennington. Thanks.
You've heard from me a little bit. I'll just say one more thing about this, which is part of what's really compelling about this for me, is that it does allow Bennington to capture some revenue from folks that don't live in Bennington. I think that's something that I feel like I've heard about at every select board meeting since I've been seated, how the people that don't live in Bennington should pay something toward the services that they use when they come here. And so I hope that we hear more about that tonight. But I think that's a point that has not been lost on me. It's sometimes difficult to feel like we're trying to nickel and dime people at the rec center. But this proposal is a way that we can help fix that imbalance a little bit in a way that 39 towns across Vermont have put on the ballot last year, right? The legislature keeps increasing the amount that towns get to keep out of this funding source, and towns across Vermont keep adopting it, and I think it speaks really to how frugal Bennington actually has been, that we haven't relied on this until now, but I think we're at a point where we've seen this past year that there are needs that are building up, the road paving budget, things like that we don't want to just put on property taxpayers from Bennington when realistically our roads are used by people from all around us. So.
So I'm going to make a statement. It's probably not a popular one among all of us, but I want to make it clear from where I sit that we don't have an expense problem. We have a revenue problem. And our revenue problem is that property taxes are too high, and yet they're not high enough to satisfy the real infrastructure that needs to be invested in our community, that needs to be invested for in our community. So this is a hard topic, and one that I'm in my 4th year on this board. It came up in my first year because it had just, I think, been discussed and failed. A lot has happened in that time. Property taxes have gone up significantly in that time. But from my perspective and from where I sit and from working with the colleagues that you see up here and the town staff that we work with, we don't have an expense problem. We have a revenue problem. So folks who, whether folks sit up here or folks from the public who have an opinion that we need to cut expenses somewhere so that we can fund the things that we're talking about funding, perhaps through a local option tax, there isn't anything left to cut. We were listening to the BBC presentation earlier. That's a shoestring budget. Most of the organizations in town that provide goods and services to the residents of Bennington and beyond are living on shoestring budgets. We're all very familiar with this way of life. It's because of where we live and because of the challenges that we're faced with. I would encourage the board and the public to really give this a look and understand the data, because that 50% spend coming from out of town, those users of the Bennington infrastructure are really getting a free ride. Now, we want those folks to come here, and we want it to be as satisfying as possible and as painless as possible for people to come here and spend their money. I would challenge everybody in this room and everybody who's at home watching to consider the last time they may have made a trip to Albany, which is where I know a lot of us go for a destination, for a more major shopping hub, and the sales receipt that you walk out of those stores with shows that you spent a significant amount of your money on additional taxes. They're there for a reason, folks. I don't really consider not going and spending that money in Albany when I need to, because I know that what I am needing to buy is there. People that are coming to Bennington to enjoy what we know people enjoy is here. It's the experience, right? It's the history, it's the events, it's the arts, it's the culture, it's the good food. People are coming here to enjoy those things. So I would caution us all to stay away from the topic of expense problem. We don't have an expense problem. We have a revenue problem. And I would ask everybody to consider that as they think about this. Thank you.
Just procedurally, there was a note that Joan and Shannon mentioned about allocating some funding that would provide a fact-based outreach to the public on this, and so I think that's probably something that would warrant a motion. So I just wanted to make sure.
It would be, my thoughts, I thought about that too, Jim, and my thought was let's focus on any questions people have on the presentation first, and then we can circle back.
Yeah, I was just thinking that you might want to, have the public comment and then get back and deal with that issue. Maybe? No. How you want to handle it.
I would agree with Jim. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So you would ask me to hear the motion. How much funding are we talking about?
I'd almost like to hear from, well, after we hear from Nancy on that topic, I would like to hear from the folks who are going to
Before
spend the
motion.
money on developing those tools.
Go ahead.
Well, I was against option taxes last time around. I remain against the taxes. We all know why Vermont has become so unaffordable over the last 30 years. It is taxes. Nobody should have to pay extra to eat, drink, shop, or stay overnight in Bennington, whether they're local or whether they're not. And everybody would pay an option tax, a senior, a single parent, someone at the low income level, someone who's homeless. Everybody would pay the options tax. Now, for several years, I've been hearing, well, if people don't live here, but they work or they shop or they eat or they drink, they should help tell us how to spend the town budget. And now I'm hearing, well, maybe they should help us pay the roads or whatever. I mean, we've been desperately trying to get tourists off the bypass for 30 years. A big part of our workforce has always come from other towns. They don't want to live in Bennington. They live in the county, they live in New York, they come here and they go home. We're lucky we have them. When I hear about quality of life, I think today for many Vermonters that means knowing they're not going to lose their home, knowing they're not going to lose their apartment. You know, I'm hearing people do a lot with a little. Well, that's what grew Vermont, what made Vermont. It's great to have big dreams and big plans, but you have to live within a budget. When you look at the size of our state budget compared to the small amount of people, there's your big problem in Vermont, one of your big problems. I'm reading up in Stowe, they're talking about raising their options tax from 1% to 2%. Be interesting to see what happens if they go to 2%. Watch all the other towns try to run it up too. The big thing, what the voters need to know. What's the process that's going to be used? Who will have the final say in how the money gets spent? And when will this go on the ballot? Local options taxes should be voted on March town meeting. Now, looking through these minutes, first I read they were going to have it next March. Now they're talking November. No, it needs to be on March town meeting. I'm interested to hear what the public has. Oh, one last thing. I've only talked to 4 private business owners so far. Everyone is opposed to it. They do not want to have to charge their customers anymore. A few are already concerned that the legislature will raise the sales tax within the next couple of years. They don't want to have to worry about charging their customers. And I think most of the private business owners I talk to are going to say the same thing. So it's great to have dreams and want to have extra money, but, you know, I've got to live in reality here.
Thank you, Nancy. Anything else from the board? I just wanted to comment that I was surprised to see last week that our neighbors to the south in Pownell are actually considering the option tax as well. So I think we're seeing a lot of growth in terms of the towns that are seeing the successes that other towns are having with this increased revenue and trying to grab some of that out-of-town money, you know, for themselves. You know, I think, Nancy, you were always a big proponent of asking if people come to our town who's paying for it. You constantly bring up the question of people coming to town and using our services and not contributing to it. And, I mean, I think this is an excellent way to possibly do that.
My concern was people who don't live here telling us how to spend our town budget. I'll welcome anybody, but coming in and saying, we want you to pay for this or that, that was never...
You normally want out-of-towners to pay, Nancy.
Huh?
You normally want out-of-towners to pay. Let's talk about the senior
to help
center,
pay us
the
fix our
why.
roads?
Nancy, be honest.
Well,
with the public,
those are what
please.
our local taxpayers pay for. Oh, this one telling me to be honest.
All right. I'll stop you both. Thank you. All right. So to Jim's point,
this one.
We would be hearing a motion to provide funding to continue the outreach and gather the community information that I think we all agree we need to hear, the public input. Do we have any kind of realistic number as to what we're thinking about?
I'm wondering if Shannon or Jonah can tell us that.
So Jonah had Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny, I can't hear any amplification. So Jonah had reached out to Cat TV for a quote on doing an informational video, and I think it was about $1,000. And if we wanted to print any material, that would be a few more hundred. I mean, I think anywhere in the range of $1,200 to $1,500 we would be able to get the information out to a much larger audience than just the folks that are here at the select board meetings.
Okay. Go ahead, Clark.
Funding source, I'm all for it. Is that something that we could fund out of our select board discretionary fund rather than a budgetary line item?
Yes, the board has a contingency fund that they could use.
Good point. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm wondering in areas of procedure, because once we hear a motion, we can't hear from the public. So I'd like to hear from the public right now, if we possibly could. And I'll start with in the back row. I can't quite see you.
Hi, I'm Gordon Black. I am economic development in the town of Manchester. I also happen to be the town assessor. Manchester, as you know, has had a local option tax for years. They were one of the very first towns to do this. This last year, Manchester, which has 4,300 residents, we have a lot of second homes as well, we brought in about $1.7 million in local option tax. We use that, I say we, I live in North Bennington, by the way. The town of Manchester uses that to reduce property taxes. Now, I just heard a comment about how property or business owners wouldn't want this, and I find that very hard to believe. Let me just give you a couple of numbers. I saw last year, you guys had about 1.5 million in general and highway expenses. You had a $1 billion grand list, which translates to about 10 million, because everything's divided by 100. You're going to go through a reappraisal, and your reappraisal is going to increase your grand list by a lot. Probably, let's just call it 1.5 billion is what it's going to end up. Now, that does not mean that everybody's taxes are going to go up that high. Some people will, but it's mostly residential properties that are going to go up, I hate to tell you. Business properties, for the most part, have been relatively flat. That's true in Manchester, it's true down here. Those aren't increasing in value to the same extent that the business properties are. Last year, with your last year's tax rates, a $500,000 assessed business property, so a non-homestead property, in the town of Bennington paid $17,598.50 in property taxes. A $500,000 business property in Manchester paid $7,967 in property taxes, $10,000 less. When a business property owner pays $10,000 less in taxes, they can reduce their rent, they can reduce their costs, they can pass that on to customers. If they have a tenant, tenants pay that. Every expense, every one of your property taxes gets passed on to a tenant, and then it gets passed on to a customer. That's a tax, whether you want to call it a tax or not. You're paying those expenses. And that's an extraordinary expense for a business property in downtown Bennington. And I'm not even talking about the downtown improvement district tax that apparently also gets thrown on there. That's extraordinarily expensive for a business to have to pay that tax, and there's no reason for it. I mean, I live in North Bennington. I go to Home Depot. I go to Hannaford. I go to Price Chopper, to Walmart. It's full of New York cars. It's full of Massachusetts cars, and you're not getting anything for that. You provide the police protection, you provide the road, you provide all the infrastructure, and you should be getting that money. Everybody here deserves it. You're going to get tax increases. Residential properties are going to have an increase in your taxes, for the most part. Not all of you, but you're going to get. I know these reappraisal guys. I know exactly who's going to do it. I've talked to them. You've got different kinds of property than Manchester or Stowe. I thought the 2%, by the way, already got shot down.
I don't know.
It did.
But they're going to come around. A lot of properties will, in fact, reduce their taxes. But your tax rate is very, very high. It's more than twice as much as Manchester. You know what Manchester's municipal rate is? 30 cents. You're $1.61 last year. That's 5 times the amount. And there's no reason for it. We have a police department. We have a fire department. We've got water and sewer. You can reduce your property tax burden. It's easy to do, and in some ways, it would be irresponsible not to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Will, is your hand up?
Will Greer, North Bennington. I have 3 questions real quick, and they're mainly clarifying ones. On the $1.82 million figure per year over the past 3 years, is that the net figure on the total, the 100%, or is that the 75% that would be our share?
That's the 75%.
That's the 75%, okay. And then on the 1% that applies to online purchases, and you guys listed including Amazon and other major retailers, what qualifies a major retailer exactly? I'm more curious if is it in statute, or do you guys have a list of things? Like, for example, would that be a nonprofit that you were to, buy something at virtually in town? And also, how does that work exactly with the online purchase? Is it your mailing address where you're shipping it to? Okay. Okay, that's what I thought.
So any retailer that's large enough to have if you're a very small online retailer and you are charging state taxes, very often they won't be charging taxes at all. So if you're buying from a very small retailer, they're not going to be assessing that tax or any sales tax. But for any of the larger retailers, it is required. So above a certain size, they're all going to be assessing both a sales tax and, if we had a local option tax, a local option tax. And you're correct, it's based on the ship to address. So not where the order is placed, but where the order is shipped to.
Okay. And then one more question, Jonah. I think I already know the answer to this, but I heard this quite a bit over the week in North Bennington. This will include North Bennington as well, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And will that revenue go to the town of Bennington, or will there be a portion that goes to the village of North Bennington? That part I don't know, so apologies.
That's a good question. Yeah. I don't know that.
I'm assuming all
I
those.
think that's something we'll have to discuss.
Okay, yep, sorry. Just wanted to pass this along. Thank you.
Oh.
Good question.
Can I make one more point? I'm sorry.
Come on.
I think that it's likely your tax rate after your reappraisal, it's a couple of years from now, right, by the time it's done, it's probably going to drop down to about $1, is my guess, from $1.61 to $1. For you to generate, let's just even say 1.5 million in new grand list money, you would have to have 500 brand new homes with a $300,000 value for each home, or 300 $500,000 homes added to your grand list, not including the ones that are going up. I'm not talking about the ones that are going to go up to 1.6. That's a huge amount that is impossible to do. You will never get a chance to get that kind of money by increasing your grand list sustainably, responsibly, whatever the word was that was used earlier. It can't be done. There's no town in Vermont that can add $500,000, $300,000 homes. There's no city in Vermont that can do that right now. So it's just, in some ways, it's a no-brainer. I just completely disagree with the idea that it's a tax that, for the 7 or 8 years I've been in Manchester, I have never heard a single complaint about the local option tax. Not from a resident, not from a visitor. Nobody. There's never been one. You don't notice it. Thank you.
Martha? You got to raise your hand, Matt.
Martha Mackey, Bennington, Vermont. I just wanted to say thank you to Jackie and Jonah. Those were really great, clear, concise presentations, very helpful for understanding all of this information. I think it definitely would be beneficial to spend a small amount of money to get that information out to the public so people genuinely understand what they would be voting on. Definitely my biggest concern would be what the money is ultimately used for and making sure that that is something that is really beneficial for the community. I think this is a great opportunity for Bennington to have a say in what is done. One of the things I hear the most living in Bennington is about how forgotten we are, unconsidered we are, and with the rest of our taxes going to Montpelier or the federal government, we don't have a lot of say in what happens with those, but this would give us total say over this chunk of money as to how to invest in our community. I think that, and as a consumer, I have been to Manchester many times and bought things there, and I didn't know they had a local option tax. So it is absolutely something that no one is going to pay attention to or notice or feel the impact on. But we will feel the impact of having that revenue.
Thank you. I'm going to go Matt and then with you, Jim.
Great, thank you. Matt Harrington, CEO of the Southwestern Vermont Chamber and the Foundation. We were some of the group that produced those numbers and that nice heat map that you saw. And I just want to add to everything that's been said here. I don't want to add too much more. I think one of the interesting discussions we were having a couple weeks ago, we were actually up at the Orchards meeting with that development group, and I asked a question to the whole group, and I said, to the developers, you've done this multiple times. What does Bennington need to do in the next 3 to 5 years to get ready? You know, that development's going to be about 5 years out. We've got phase 2 of Putnam 2 years out, Ben High 2 years out. We've got a pipeline of things that are coming online, and I think it's important for us to say, how do we get ready? How do we pull together the resources necessary? And I think the option tax is one of many that we need to consider, but I just want to leave this group with thinking about Bennington's readiness. How do we get ready, not just for what's currently going on, as we've seen those numbers, it's amazing. It's kind of like we pulled up a rock and we found these numbers. It's so crucial. But those numbers are projected to only grow, especially with the developments happening. So what are we going to do for Bennington's readiness? Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Jim?
Jim Martinez. I'm not speaking on behalf of the BBC. I'm here as a person from across the border I do all my business in Bennington. And I don't know Gordon, but I have to agree with everything he said. Nancy, you did mention that we are lucky to have those people here, those people that Gordon was referring to about the different cars in the parking lots. I have to believe that if you do this, those people are still going to come. I just can't imagine that they won't come. People come here for a reason. You know, I shop at the Gift Garden, Adams Lock, Knapp's, Madison's. I do it because I trust these people. I want to do business locally. I know I'm going to get good service. I am willing to pay a premium. And I'm not saying I'm paying a premium, but I am willing to if I know I can get all those things. I have to believe this does feel like a no-brainer, and I hope we institute it.
Thanks. Thank you. Anyone else? We have one on Zoom? Okay, very good. Zoom caller, go ahead.
Yep, Sam Racino, Bennington, Vermont. The proof is in the pudding. Let's not waste any time and go for the tax. We need revenues. Grants are not readily available. They're going to be less. I agree with Ed. I agree with the one from Manchester. The money is there. Two things to utilize. Our infrastructure. We've got a lot of projects coming aboard and to be prepared for, as Matt just stated, and our tax release. One thing for sure, whatever happened to the camera on the Putnam block? Remember the WTEN camera? We better get that camera back on the Putnam block. The only vision that we have is out on SVMC, on Channel 13. That's all they see. The folks in the metropolis of the Capital District and surrounding areas need to see downtown Bennington on camera. That's your best investment right there. Let's get that camera back on Main Street. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Anyone else from the public? Okay, then I would hear a motion to extend $1,500, I think is reasonable.
Maybe a little buffer in there, I think.
Yeah, 2,000.
2,000 is a baseline with a buffer.
Up to.
1,500 and we may need more, so let's offer a bit more and spend what we need.
Okay, fair. Is that your motion?
My motion, yeah, $2,000 be allocated from a contingency fund for the outreach that Jonah and Shannon have requested.
Okay.
I would second that.
Thank you. Board discussion.
What will this money be for?
Shannon already outlined it for us, but I can have her touch on it.
She outlined it very clearly.
Jonah reached out to Cat TV, so they would be doing an informational video. Really, a lot of the information in Jonah's presentation are on that one page. So just imagine that in a video that could be shared on all the platforms so that people have the information, as well as paper, print information. The BBC was speaking earlier about hosting a forum at the Bennington Theater. I think it's July 28th is the date. So that would be another place to have informational material, et cetera. And then anytime we're doing a forum or a public meeting, that's how that material would be shared.
So this would also go to public outreach to get people to come to these meetings and provide their feedback.
Sure.
Because this is certainly something that we're going to want to get as much public feedback as possible.
So, and Jonah would be putting together that outreach plan, which we could share with you as well.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I think people want to know, what will the process be used to determine how to spend the money?
I 100% agree with you, and I think that's part of why we need to have these informational meetings and get the public feedback onto how they think that we should spend the money.
Well, didn't the board have discussions 4 years ago and talk about a process?
Not interested in 4 years ago. We're looking forward. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm just trying to think ahead a little bit and plan this out. If we were to put this on a November ballot, when do we need to have made that decision by for the town clerk to have that on the ballot?
I'm sorry, I'd say the latest we'd want to plan for that is probably early September.
Early September.
It's a 30-day notice period, et cetera. So I wouldn't want to push it to, let's make that decision. If it looks like it makes sense, let's make the decision in September. If not, we can always default to the town meeting. That's really a decision that hasn't been finalized yet when we have it, but we do have two reasonable options in front of us. And I think that we just, this board needs to make that decision collectively by that time period. And maybe you'll make it sooner. Maybe August will come and you say, no, we've had several meetings. We're ready to go. Get that lined up. Tell us how that's going to look. Obviously, we'd have to get the ballot language prepared by our attorney and all that sort of thing. So I would say let's shoot for an early September date. And if we can't make that decision by then, we should probably think about March.
So regardless, it would be this board's decision.
Yes, it's always your decision, and it's whether or not we proceed. Absolutely.
So I certainly think that it's a worthwhile effort to put good, reliable information out there. So I'm in favor of that. If I think about September as the timing for this board to decide to put it on the ballot, that means we probably have 4 meetings between now and then for us to decide. And what I keep hearing from the public is that it's really, really important that we're clear with them how these funds would be used. So I think that's going to have to be a really concerted effort on our part to develop that proposal while town staff is putting out the information. So I'm just a little concerned about that timing. But
it feels ambitious.
Yeah.
I mean, to that point, I think that I don't think that we predetermined before September how projected funds are going to be spent. I think that we have a process for determining public input and the ultimate decision about how to spend those funds. Because I do think it is going to take a lot of public discourse and this board meeting to figure out the best way to allocate those funds. How much should go to property tax relief? How much should go to a special project? So there's no way that we get that done before September, but I think that we have a process that people clearly understand what the process is going to be for making that decision.
I think we might ultimately get a picture of what's realistic when we start having these forums and getting public feedback and so forth. I think maybe we just don't. This discussion might be a little premature because we don't know what we don't know yet.
No, sure, absolutely. I think part of my point is, like, let's not delay. Let's get these funds approved so that we can get that information out there, start having those public forums and having conversations with folks that are based in the facts that we have.
Good. Clark.
Just a second question. My constant Clark issues. We have to get the public involved with not only the education on what we're going to do with this bill, but to actually get them involved in the process. You know, I keep hearing a lot of questions or information that I end up having to correct or expand on, and I think it's so very important that the public must be involved in this. You know, whether it be just going online and scanning what's on the town website, come to these meetings. I'm kind of disappointed I don't see more hands on that screen. But everyone, if we could just please encourage our friends and neighbors to get involved, ask questions, provide input, because I want to do it right, but I also want people to understand that they were part of the process. I don't want anyone feeling that, and I've heard it, I don't want anything rammed down anyone's throat. That's just not going to happen. So I think it's imperative that the public understand this will not proceed or go forward without their say-so. You know, it's going to be settled at the ballot box, but we need to hear from the public what they would like us to propose beyond that ballot, or not. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree, Clark. I mean, we hear constantly, you know, from folks that taxes are too high, but at our budget meetings, there's never anyone here. You know, you're here, but
I don't understand. Sarah Beth Ward, Bennington. Why do we have to spend money to do this? People can watch the select board meeting from tonight.
Yep.
You can put articles in the paper. I don't understand why we have to spend money. People are not interested. They don't look at the select board meetings. There's no, you know, Sam Rustino is the only one you ever see that's online. You're going to get the same people to come to these meetings over and over again. Unfortunately, we see who votes in the town, like it's a very low turnout. So I just feel like I don't understand why we're going to spend money to try to, for outreach for people when they don't even do the things. They can go on the town website. Yeah. They can talk to the select board members. I don't understand why we have to spend money when we're hurting for money right now.
Go ahead, Jim.
I don't like to spend money we don't need to spend either. I would say that we're talking about money that already has been allocated in the town budget for the select board's kind of discretionary spending. And to your point, yes, there is a discrete group of people who attends these meetings, goes to budget meetings, goes to select board meetings. But there are an awful lot of people out there, I know, who look at and discuss town issues through various social media platforms and other things. And we really don't reach them very well with this fact-based information. And so I think this is an opportunity to get to find a different way to reach different and more people.
And, you know, and I hear what you're saying in terms of that, but I refuse to give up on the people of Bennington that they do want to participate. A lot of them are intimidated. It's hard to get up at a meeting and talk about things, but that's something you can do over time. You get used to it, you know. But I do think that I refuse to believe that nobody cares, and I think we need to get the message to them via whatever mediums we can that will actually reach them. It's a small amount of money in the grand scheme of things. It has already been allocated, so those taxes have already been paid. And I think this is a reasonable use of those funds. Nancy?
And the forums won't be here? Somebody else will hold the forums in the downtown?
That's just one of many forums, Nancy, that will happen. I think the more diverse forums are, the better we will reach folks.
Certainly, we could have our own listening session, for example.
Yeah, I can definitely foresee several meetings here, several other places in the community where people maybe are more comfortable going. But the more voices we hear from, the better we're going to be able to do our jobs. And ultimately, it's going to come down to the voters regardless. So. Anyone else? We're actually, Shirley, we have a motion on the floor, so it's our discussion period. Yeah, Clark will get back. Is there anything else from the board? All right, then all those in favor of the motion to...
Excuse me, Tom, we need a second.
We had a second.
We have a second.
Ed seconded.
Who did? Ed did?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
did not hear.
Did it quickly.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yep. Good for make sure you're keeping us on our toes, though. I appreciate it. Yeah, there you go.
I may have mumbled it, Nancy.
All right. So all those in favor of expending $2,000 from our discretionary fund to inform the public on this topic, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. I think that was that.
Yes.
I'm not going to say that we're ahead of schedule. Item 7, review options for crosswalk north of Depot Street Bridge. We have Mark Anders here from the BCRC. Thank you for being here a little bit earlier than you expected.
Thank you, public.
So, just to kind of...
Hey, everybody that's leaving, this crosswalk stuff is really interesting.
Just to put this...
Mark, don't take this personal.
Mark, what happened?
Maybe just to set a little context to this agenda item, this is something that came up at a previous select board meeting where there was a request for staff to take a look at best practices for improving the crosswalk near that Depot Street Bridge, since it's under construction and it makes sense to be focusing on that. So under that direction, I did reach out to Mark Anders, our resident transportation planner with Bennington County Regional Commission. And Mark, of course, everything he does with transportation, took this and ran with it, and I think gave us a nice comprehensive presentation of what crosswalks can look like. And it may have usefulness beyond this particular crosswalk as we look to improve pedestrian safety across the town. So, Mark?
And I think there's a presentation. Yeah, here we go. Okay, great. Phew. So, as Stan said, my name is Mark Anders. I am the transportation planner for the Bennington County Regional Commission, and the Select Board asked me to come up with some options for improved crosswalk at Depot Street. So, next slide, please.
Could we adjust the microphone up a little bit, please?
Oh, yeah, it's hard to hear.
Being not close enough and the volume.
All right, I'll do it.
Oh, perfect.
Do it rock star style. Okay, so just to put this in context, This is a map of the planned and existing shared use paths in Bennington. The blue arrow is the crosswalk that we're talking about. So this crosswalk is important because it connects the Riverwalk with the rail trail where the skate park is. Next slide, please. So the first recommendation is to correct a skew in the crosswalk. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of Depot Street before the bridge was removed. It obviously looks quite different now, but you'll notice, so the Riverwalk is here on the right, and the new skate park rail trail is there on the left, and the crosswalk used to skew towards the south. Next slide, please. And this is the plan for the skate park. So the new crosswalk, if we did it as planned, would actually skew a little bit to the north. So my first recommendation is to straighten this out. Next slide, please. So you'll notice when you look at the Riverwalk, it sort of jogs a little bit to the south there. So that gives us some wiggle room to straighten out the crosswalk. So next slide, please. So this is what I'm proposing. Is to, the dotted line there is the existing curb, so I'm proposing to bump out the curb a little bit to the north, and that would create a more perpendicular crossing. So that's a fairly simple fix. And then I'm also going to talk about, maybe go back to the next one, please. Yeah, so I'm going to give you 5 crosswalk options. I promise this will be really quick. I know it's really late. And I'm going to start with the least expensive, the quickest ones to implement. And these options also give the lowest pedestrian priority. So that means like cars would be more favored than pedestrians. And then move towards the safest and most comfortable options for pedestrians where they're prioritized more. And these options tend to be a little bit more expensive and complex. Next slide, please. So first option is high visibility crosswalk. Next slide, please. So this is basically your standard, ladder style crosswalk. You could paint it, you could use thermoplastic, and you would have a crosswalk. So that's sort of option number 1. That's the easiest one to implement. Next one.
Mark, before you go on, could you talk about the other improvements that are proposed, like the center sign and the
Good
2
point,
new
Dan.
signs? Yeah.
Okay, and I'm also proposing some new signs. Since this is a shared use path that's going across the road, cyclists use it, pedestrians use it. So there is a sign that is more appropriate than just a crosswalk sign. That's the sign with the bike and the pedestrians. So we could use those signs. And then also those state law stop for pedestrian signs are also a very easy way, cost-effective way to alert motorists that pedestrians are present and that needs to stop. So I'm recommending that too for all these options. Next slide, please. So these just go through a couple of examples of a high visibility crosswalk. So this is actually the Minuteman bike path in Boston, very popular bike path. They just use a high visibility crosswalk. Interestingly enough, this is at a skew. Next slide, please. And this is another high visibility crosswalk in the Boston area, very popular shared use path. And you'll notice there's actually a speed hump behind it. I'm not proposing that, but I did notice that. So, high visibility crosswalks are frequently used to connect, to get paths across the street. So next slide, please. So second option is a green crosswalk. Next slide, please. So often when paths cross streets, sometimes they're painted green just to show that it's kind of like something special, that, green, there are green bike paths, green bike lanes. So this color is often used to indicate that there are bikes and pedestrians present. So we could paint it green. Next slide, please. So this is in Burlington. This is the Burlington bike path, and it shows they use green to get across this road. That's how Burlington chooses to treat its crosswalks, where the bike path crosses roads. So next slide, please. So the third option is a curb extension. Next slide, please. So curb extension, so the blue lines would indicate where I'm proposing, where we could put a curb extension. If you bumped out the curb a little bit by a few feet on both sides, you would still have 11-foot travel lanes. So that's an option. I'll show you a couple of examples. Next slide, please. This is a shared use path crossing a road in Minneapolis. They used a simple bulb out. Next slide, please. And, bulb outs, curb extensions come in many shapes. This is another example of one. And next slide, please. And there are actually quite a few in Bennington. This is North Street in Bennington. There's a little curb extension to help people get across North Main Street. Next slide, please. So the fourth option is a raised crosswalk. Next slide, please. So raised crosswalks are significantly safer for pedestrians than conventional sidewalks. This is a informational sheet from the US DOT and Federal Highway. And so they say raised crosswalks can reduce pedestrian crashes by 45%. And that's because cars have to slow down right at the crosswalk. It's traffic calming right where people are crossing the street. And it also raises people up by a few inches to make them more visible. And it also makes a level crossing surface, which is more comfortable to cross. So next slide, please. So this is what a raised crosswalk could look like on Depot Street. They're flat topped, and 10 feet wide, and then they slope up. There's a 6-foot approach. They tend to be 3 to 3.5 inches high, so they're not really that high, but high enough to slow people down. Next slide, please. So I'll just show you a couple of quick examples. This is in the Boston area. I'm not proposing anything this fancy, but it's just worth noting that raised crosswalks are often used where shared use paths cross roads. Next slide, please. This is, I think, the same spot, just to get an idea of what it looks like. I'm not proposing using granite or pavers or anything like that. Next slide, please. Probably, if we did one, it would look more like this. This is just asphalt. Fairly simple construction. Next slide, please. Just another example of a raised crosswalk. Next slide, please. And one more raised crosswalk. All right, so let's go on to the last option, option 5. So this is the fanciest option, the deluxe crossing. It's the curb extension and a raised crosswalk. So next slide, please. So it would simply be a curb extension and then a raised crosswalk in the middle of it. Next slide, please. I'll show you a couple of examples of that. So this is a curb extension with a raised crosswalk. I'm sorry about the terrible picture. Next slide, please. Here's another example of a raised crosswalk with a curb extension connecting a path. And next slide, please. And probably if we did something in Bennington, it would look a little bit like this. It's, with the curb extension, probably we wouldn't be planting, it would probably just be concrete, but this just gives you an idea of what it could look like. So that's, those are 5 options. Any questions? Robin?
You said you were going to Robin Tarnas, Bennington, Vermont. When you said that those signs were important and you were recommending them for all of the crosswalks, it looked like the most obvious and the one that would stop and draw the most attention were the signs that were in the middle of the road. Is that what you're recommending?
Yeah, I'm recommending that. Excellent. Yes. Yeah, and I haven't seen any research that shows they make crosswalks safer, but, it's common sense that they would. It makes intuitive sense.
Can a car drive over that and flatten it? Will it bounce back up?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I think
Are they attached in a way so you can run them over?
Yes, but, you know, they
I
can
mean,
only-
not on purpose, but...
Well, a lot of people do them on purpose, unfortunately. They can take a certain amount of abuse before they give up the ghost.
No, I've seen them. I just didn't know. I said they must have
Yeah,
some.
they are flexible.
Yeah.
Another question I had on those middle-of-the-road signs is what happens in the wintertime?
We do have to pull them up in the winter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they bolt to the pavement.
But we also see significantly less use on a path in the winter.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
And you showed Burlington the green one.
Yeah.
Is there any reason we can't use yellow? I mean, I think about
no,
the
you could
wintertime.
use yellow. And actually, I noticed in front of the post office on Elm Street, it used to be red with white. So around town, there are some red crosswalks already in Bennington. I think the green would show that it's connecting a path, but you could use yellow.
I'm just thinking for the wintertime, you can't see any of them.
Yeah.
Clark.
Yeah, no, I was looking at the designing and a couple things popped in mind. And I noticed your favorite subject, speed humps. And almost like a hybrid situation. I think of that elevated crosswalk in the sense of serving dual purpose being a speed hump. But the thing that factors into, it's on the trail, I think of folks, handicapped individuals in powered wheelchairs and so forth. Where it's a little bit better transition to go straight across that elevated speed hump versus those cutouts in the curve and going out into the street.
Yep.
And other things, again, I like hybrid really things with it. You know, green, yeah, it's visible, but I think that yellow kind of jumps out at you. And I don't think speeding per se is a problem on people. What I do think of is the young men and young women I see with e-bikes blasting out into the middle of Depot Street, either going to or from there. So I think something that is highly visible to drivers and would make them prone to be proactive, start slowing down before they got to it, rather than slamming on the brakes for a young and blasting through there on their e-bikes.
Good. Yeah.
Jackie?
Yeah. Clark, thank you. I think that's a good point. I've actually had, in the past 2 weeks, I'd say, 2 close calls with e-bikes that just came out from behind cars. And yeah, it's I'd like to get an e-bike, but it's concerning to me how some people operate them. Mark, thank you for putting this together. I really appreciate it. I think there's a lot of good options here. I noticed on all of them, you've changed how that curb from the river walk comes in. I think that it certainly helps. I was looking at the traffic calming ordinance that this board adopted a while back at some of the activity generators. And I noted that this intersection here ticks 3 of those 5 boxes right away. A mid-block crossing, it's on a bike path, and it's with a public park right on one side of it. I noticed that the traffic calming scoring talks about traffic volume. I understand that you maybe didn't have time to study this particular crossing in light of the fact that the bridge is being redeveloped, and we'd like to get this in as part of that project. I wonder if actually the traffic calming grading should also have something with the amount of pedestrian traffic, because I imagine that there's maybe a little less car traffic at this place, but much higher pedestrian traffic, and I think that's sort of what we are looking to prioritize at this intersection. All that said, I noticed that there were no costs associated with any of these proposals. Can you give us a sense of the range that we're looking at from alternative 1 to alternative 5?
Yeah, I don't think any of them would be that expensive.
Okay.
I would say, just striping a crosswalk is very cheap. The most expensive option, curb with raised crosswalk, I don't know, like $3,000 to $5,000 maybe.
Okay.
Just a wild guess.
Right. And we're going to have paving happening in this area already, right? So will that help with the cost? If we choose an option that requires...
Well, it's still the additional cost will still be the additional cost. Yeah. I mean, my biggest concern with anything beyond an at-grade crossing is drainage. It's a very flat area. The bridge is the high point. The water's going to be coming off of it. If you have any obstructions like a speed table or even those curb extensions, how we deal with that water is going to be very complicated. And so
so one way you can do speed tables, the presentation's down, but if you look closely at some of the examples, it sort of starts at street level and then goes up, so you can preserve the drainage along the side of the road if you do it that way.
Wouldn't that make it rather disruptive for the cyclist going across, kind of down, bump up?
Not really, because it's only, remember at the height of this thing, it's only 3 inches tall. So if you've ever watched the, this is really an aside, the Netflix Tour de France series, it's amazing how many race crosswalks they go over. It's not really I wouldn't think it would be a significant issue. But I will say that, Bennington hasn't done any of these yet. Some towns and cities crank these out all the time, so they have sort of typicals and they have a process for doing it. So since this is our first one, it might be a little bit tricky. Maybe a little bit of engineering would be involved to make sure the drainage is okay.
Dan, in your memo to us here, you said that RJ recommends option 1. Yeah, could you share some of his thinking?
His biggest concern was the drainage issue. So that's, option 1 or option 2. Option 2, he had some concerns about whether or not the paint would be slippery. Sometimes we have some slippery issues when you do solid paint colors like that, but maybe that can be addressed with paint that has some sort of grit in it or whatever. But I think that he would be happy with 1 or 2. 2, I think if we decide to do that, number 2, I think we need to say that particular crosswalk is only appropriate when we're talking about on a bike path. Otherwise, folks would want to, how do we decide where we put a green one, where we put a regular one? So that would be my only concern.
If I could, to that, that's really my only significant comment on this whole thing. I think straightening out the skew and making it more visible with the paint, whatever color you use, and the signs is really key. But I do think that this is, connection in this case between the Riverwalk and the rail trail, I guess, right? But it's also a part of the Williamsack Valley Trail network that goes all the way through the center of town. And I do think that whatever we choose, we should be consistent with all of the Williamsack Valley path crossings as it goes through town. So it's just something to keep in mind going forward.
In terms of actual structure, use the color.
No, I think whatever it is, it ought to be straight. The color, whether it be the high visibility striping or the solid color, and the signage. Oh, I don't even like that word. The signs should be consistent at all the crossings for the Williamsack Valley Path.
Yep. Yeah. The other thing I had a question about was alternative 4 here, the curb extensions. You showed 2 different options for that. One, you said the handout here says could be permanent concrete curbs or temporary painted with removable plastic bollards. Is that the right way to say that?
Yep. Sometimes communities, instead of actually building a curb, they just use paint, and then they put up some of those, they bolt in plastic bollards that are like this. And that way it's not permanent. It doesn't affect drainage, and you can do it quickly.
But it has that same effect of narrowing the road a little and making the cars slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Increasing visibility.
Yeah, I mean, a plastic bollard won't stop a car. I mean, a curb won't really either, but visually it narrows it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else from my board members? I'll go to the audience now. Come on up, Deb.
Deb Matt, Bennington. How will this area compare to North Street? I have to confess, when I'm headed south on North Street and you come to the crosswalk there over the bridge is solid and it's about yay high, and I have to admit, I'm pretty near on top of the crosswalk by the time I realize that there's somebody over in, to me it kind of blocks the view of the people. Is the new bridge going to have that big solid piece? Is the crosswalk going to be as close to the bridge? I mean, for me, it's a safety thing. I don't want to run anybody over, but if I don't see them.
It's a good question. The crosswalk will be about 5 feet north of where the old one was on the west side, and it will be at the same place it is now on the east side. I don't know. I haven't seen the bridge details, so I don't know.
And could you speak to that?
The bridge will be identical, virtually identical to the previous bridge.
Yep.
Yep. It's been designed to basically mimic the previous bridge.
Yeah.
Except it will say 2026 in it, instead of 1926, I think. Or 1924. I forget what it was.
While we're mentioning the bridge, I'd just like to mention that the staff, I go by there pretty frequently, and they've done an amazing job.
It's a pretty amazing project, yeah. You should all be really proud of what they've done.
Especially how quickly it's come together. It's really impressive.
It's a lot of work that they did ahead of time to make it so that it happened quickly when they actually started to put down the pieces. So, yeah, all that prefab work.
So what one we going with here?
Well, that's what we're talking about.
No one's made a recommendation.
Now, the raised crosswalk option, I see here that it stops short of the curb to preserve drainage, but as pointed out before, that street's pretty darn flat, and water flows downhill.
And they're going to have to work hard even just to get the drainage to positively go away from the bridge.
So we want to stick with 1 or 2, right?
As much as I love the idea of a raised crosswalk, and I'd love to have the first one in Bennington, I don't think this is the right spot for it. That's my opinion.
Well, and I think to Jim's point, too, I think that's a reasonable consideration that this is part of a larger trail network, or a larger path network. And as we continue to build that out and hopefully increase the people that use that system on foot and on bicycles, I see a lot of wisdom in making it consistent throughout, and raised crosswalk might not be the right solution along the whole bike path.
Yep.
Does anyone, Nancy seems to prefer 1 or 2. Anyone else have thoughts on what their preferences might be?
I'm just saying that's what RJ, the town, goes with.
Yep.
Cheap way to go.
Yep.
Will the green paint, if it's slippery, can they put a grit in it or something?
I think Mark, do you have any experience with that type of paint?
It's used.
It's used a lot of places.
over.
So I'm sure there's a paint that could be.
Yeah,
I think you have to be careful when it's first put down. It can be a little slippery, but
I think this paint, there's thermoplastic, has more of a grip and is more durable, but it's more expensive.
Yeah.
Ed?
There are options.
The fact that the staff looked at this and they prefer 1 or 2 for the reasons that they mentioned, I would like to agree with the staff because they're the experts and I'm not.
I think we have someone online, too.
Oh, we have something on Zoom?
Yes, online.
Ouch.
Zoom caller, please go ahead.
Yes, Sam Racino, Bennington, Vermont, and you know my story of 10 years ago with the crosswalk at Tasty Freeze. We've got an opportunity to do a calming effect. Can we do the bulb outs like they did on Main Street and keep it flat?
Thanks. Al.
Hello?
Yep, nope, we got your opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from you guys? I mean, I'm going to be looking for a motion here fairly shortly.
I would defer to the resident experts if that's what RJ thinks is in order. I could go with his primary choice, but again, in perfect world, I've allocated one with a more handicap-friendly access to the area, and even safer for people on wheel vehicles instead of drop-off to get through it. But I will go with RJ's suggestion. He's a resident expert.
I mean, I'm assuming any of these would have the curb cut that you see at every crosswalk intersection in town.
Absolutely, yeah. They will have all of a handicap accessible or ADA compliant.
I mean, I'm really, as someone who, as someone who uses bike paths a lot on a bike, I don't honestly have a strong preference myself. Just from if I were to have a slight preference, it would probably be for number 2 with the solid painted one, because it does make it distinctive from other crosswalks. It says, hey, this is part of the path network through town. So, I wouldn't be upset with any of them, 1 or 2 especially, but it seems like number 2 does kind of make it stand out as part of the path network.
I'll just go ahead and make a motion that we choose alternative 2 here, particularly since it's something we haven't done before. I think it could also be valuable to have that here and be able to observe how it works, and if there's any difficulties with it now before we continue building out the bike path and perhaps putting these in other places.
Great. So is that a motion?
That was a motion.
I'm going to second that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to get into paint color?
I think we're the Green Mountain State.
Mark says green, right? So I don't know.
I like
Oh, that's what they do in Burlington, but you can pick any color you want.
Green, so I was thinking green.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think green represents the state, but more importantly, green associated with the bikes and gym.
All right.
Good. Go with that.
We have a motion on the table to go with option 2. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I see no abstentions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark, thank you.
Mark, thank you very
Appreciate
much.
All right.
If only everyone could approach their jobs with such passion as you do traffic. That would be.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, next on our agenda, appointments for boards and commissions. We did meet the other night and interview applicants for contested positions, as we agreed to at our last meeting. And we did agree on a slate. That slate is as follows. Development Review Board, 3-year term. Charles, I'm going to murder some of these names. Charles Kokoris, Alexander Miller, Jane Griswold Radokia. Am I close? Listers, Peter Green, Carol Holm, those are 2-year terms. Historic Preservation Committee, 3-year terms, Thomas Blakely, Brian Knights, and Jeffrey Goldstone. Regional Commission, 2-year term, David Conwell to represent the town. CPARB, 3-year terms, Mark Phillips, Tom Kelly, and Kathleen Cost. Planning Commission, 2 4-year terms, Nicholas Lassoff, Robert Ebert, and a 1-year term for Aspen Gould. Bennington Housing Authority, a 5-year term, Shirley Adams. Energy Committee, 2-year term, Bill Christian. And Select Board Liaison positions for this year, Bennington Free Library, Jackie Matz. Bennington Rescue Squad, Clark Adams. Better Bennington Corporation, Jim Sullivan. CPARB, Ed Woods, with extra Ds.
I just noticed that.
Energy Committee, Sarah Perrin. For the purpose of discussion, could I have a motion to accept the slate?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Go ahead.
In regard to Shirley Adams' appointment, I'm going to have to accuse myself from voting on that.
Okay, so we can...
Can we take it separately?
So, Tom, you're not really voting on the liaisons. Those are your appointments.
Yeah, those are my appointments.
Yeah,
I just,
so maybe that's just for information only.
yeah, read those out.
Yeah.
Those are the appointments.
Can we take out the Housing Authority so that clerk can participate in all but that, or is it all one motion?
I'm not 100% sure that there's a conflict, but because there's no. But you know what? I would say the appearance is always better to just. So yeah, would you be willing to amend the motion to exclude the Housing Authority?
I'm going to amend the motion to exclude the Housing Authority.
Is that okay with a seconder?
Absolutely.
All right. So now, discussion.
None.
I guess not on the slate, but on the remaining open commitments for the Energy Committee. We can maybe discuss that after.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up after, but I think it is worthy of discussion. Nancy?
Everybody who's on here are already on there right now?
No.
Except for the two that we interviewed. The other boards and committees, they're already serving, they're just getting reappointed?
No, there were a couple of new names, but they did provide resumes and other information, and no one raised that. And I think we agreed that we would be interviewing people in contested positions.
We knew during interviews who were incumbents and who were not.
Anything else? All right, then I will call the vote. All in favor of accepting the slate as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain because I was not able to participate in the interview process.
Okay, thank you.
I am too.
And
that presents a quandary.
Well, there's some of the people.
Yeah. It is a quandary. So maybe, Jim, you could reconsider and vote? There's nothing that says you can't.
I did read all of the resumes, and I feel comfortable, that I understand enough about them to vote if we need my vote to make a to
need
get a
4
majority.
positive votes. So.
Yeah. So.
Jackie?
We don't have 4.
1, 2, 3. Well, we do.
Oh, we do. We do on the first round. We're fine.
On the first round, yeah.
Because Clark's not abstaining.
Yeah.
Clark, you voted yes?
I vote yes.
Okay, then we're okay.
Yep.
So we have 4 with 2 abstaining. Now, the Bennington Housing Authority, Shirley Adams is an incumbent.
So I'll make a motion that we reappoint Shirley Adams to the Bennington Housing Authority for a 5-year term.
I second that.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on Shirley?
Does anybody know if Shirley accepts?
Well, she's out there and she hasn't raised a
when
stink.
they're in the room and they're quiet.
Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you
Clark.
very much, everyone.
Okay. Thank you. That's all set.
All right. Manager's report. Mr. Monks.
All right, manager's report. 1 minute late, I'm going to go really fast. We already discussed the PFAS hearing or meeting on June 24th, so that's just a reminder. There was some discussion at a recent select board meeting about issues with parking at the River Street and Depot Street intersection, in particular in front of the Kelly's Tavern on River Street. After discussing this issue with the PD, we are proposing that the board consider a no parking zone adjacent to Kelly's from Depot Street 70 feet back. I have a couple photos indicating that area where that no parking may be instituted. I will say I did speak with the owner of Kelly's Tavern, with my zoning administrator, Bridget Gallant. I can say that she does not embrace this change. So I would want to make sure that you folks know about that. I have made it clear to her that before this was adopted, she'd have an opportunity to discuss it. It cannot be adopted until it's on an agenda and you guys amend the traffic ordinance. I also did invite her to email me some comments, and maybe she will do that if you guys proceed, but I haven't received any at this point, just so I could share her perspective with you folks. So really the question tonight is, it's no formal vote or anything, just a consensus of whether you folks would like to move forward with staff drafting a modification to the traffic control ordinance for you guys to consider at a future meeting, or if you prefer that we not proceed with any measures restricting parking on River Street.
Okay, so Dan, basically, how far back would this take us if we're looking at the overhead map here?
70 feet. And so basically it would be right directly in front of the building. If you look at the second picture here,
right,
and you can see where the curb starts to dive down. So basically from that driveway entrance to the intersection is about 70 feet. It's maybe 2 to 3 car parking areas, depending upon how close they park towards the intersection.
Isn't there a no parking here to corner sign on that?
No.
There is no restriction now?
There is no restriction on that side.
Other than the stop sign.
Yeah. They do, another issue that does occur that we wouldn't necessarily need to do a change, we wouldn't need to do a change in the traffic control ordinance is folks do park directly up to the intersection where the stop sign is, and technically they're supposed to be back, I think it's 20 to 30 feet, don't quote me on the amount, but that doesn't even, that's just state law, so we could start to enforce that. I would recommend that we install a sign first before we do that, but once we do install a sign, we could take care of at least that 25 feet or so back from the intersection on that side of the street.
This is 70?
Yeah. Well,
You don't
that's what
think-
Google Maps says.
Yeah.
You don't think if you did 25 on each side of the street, that would take care of it?
It might help, and that, I'm just going by recommendations from the police department who
I was just trying to save parking, but for the business.
I really think it's up to you folks. Anything that improves, sight distance at that intersection is going to be welcome. We just, as you know, lots of folks complain about how narrow it is. Maybe that's a good thing. It slows them down. I don't know. I don't use that intersection myself. It's really up to you folks. If you have a consensus about where you'd like us to go, no action, focus on enforcement of the stop sign issues, the distance back from the stop sign, or some sort of restriction in front of the tavern itself. Really, we just look to you guys for guidance. It is not a high accident intersection, so we're not seeing folks get injured and property damage. It's more of, I think, folks feel like they just can't get through there, so they either take another intersection or whatever. So I really, if I felt that this was a huge safety issue, then obviously we'd be in a different situation.
I'm just looking at the photograph of the side of the building there from the street. Any idea how wide the concrete sidewalk is there?
Well, it looks significantly wider than the typical, and I don't know how much of that is
I'm just saying,
right away.
there's not that, I'm all about sidewalks and pedestrian traffic, and this is a more expensive solution, but you could move the curb back.
And that would involve moving the pole back as well?
Well, you'd have to move, they'd be responsible for that. It may take time for Green Mountain Power to move it, but,
That's a totally different animal then.
Well, it's a totally different animal, but I look at it, I'm like, why do we have all that concrete there?
Yeah. I don't know how much of that is right away and how much of that is their property, so.
Clark.
One thing I think of is that cut, you got the telephone pole there. There's obviously a parking area to the left of that. If the owner or whatever, basically you get a sidewalk cut. There's 2 parking spots there, which will more than compensate for the loss by making a non-parking area that we designated. Of course, you can't park in front of the driveway anyway, so
Yeah.
I think effectively we'd be eliminating 2 legal parking spaces.
There's more than 2 off the road there?
Yeah, but you cut that where that
Maybe 3.
the umbrella that's spaced there, if they did a curb cut there, easily they could have that 2 parking spots there, which would more than compensate for 2 parking spots lost on the street. Also, and still make people not feel that intersection is restricted.
Clark, I'm not sure about that, just because if I imagine a car parked in that spot, I think probably the back end of the car would be in the sidewalk, and I don't know that I'd want to impede the sidewalk in that way. Yeah, that's hard from a photo.
Well, I think maybe my preference is to go ahead and give staff the go-ahead to come up with a plan. And then we could debate it at that point in time. I think that's more appropriate than debating it right now. Does anyone disagree that we could at least get a plan to look at?
Do you think we should put the sign before the stop sign that probably should have always been there?
Yes, I think that's the first step, yes. We'll do that regardless.
That'd be just on the one side, or could you put it on?
You can only do it where the side of the
Okay.
street on which it stop sign without, now obviously you guys could pass an ordinance that restricted parking X feet from the
No, but just
intersection.
something to
But
do
as far
for
as
right-
the stop sign side, that is state statute. According to the chief, we could sign that and enforce it, you know.
How many feet back is it from the stop sign?
I think it's 30,
I
but
think it's
don't quote
32.
me. It's
I
either
will double
20 to 30 feet. I don't want to.
So we're not going to, that won't impact the area right in front
It
of the
won't impact the
business.
side where the stop sign is not located. So directly in front of the tavern.
But in theory, if you clear the other side of the street according to the state law, you've got a wider intersection with better visibility.
It may help the issue, and maybe that's an interim measure. We see how it works, and if you folks feel that it's satisfactory, we don't have to do anything else.
I'd like us to consider that.
Okay. So if that's the consensus, we'll sign the area where the stop sign is, do some enforcement, and see how that works. And if that solves the problem, then
Now, on the enforcement issue,
Yep.
did the chief feel like that would be a burden on his department?
well, it may not be regular, but we could certainly say, hey, for at least the first few weeks, let's make an effort so that people understand they're really not supposed to park there. Especially if we have a brand new sign there, and it may help to.
Right.
I think if we have to go further, I'd like to hear from the business owner.
Oh, and that absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's
I've spoken with Kelly on this before, and as Dan said, she wasn't thrilled.
yeah.
I'd like to hear more from her.
She would definitely be invited to any where you guys were formally considering any.
Do you think
change.
she'd be open to this, or did you not even think to talk, or whoever talked?
Well, the
with-
stop sign issue is it doesn't matter if
already
you're open
there.
to it or not. It's a state
Okay,
statute.
well, maybe that
yeah.
might take care of it.
So when they do street side parking enforcement over the winter, I know the police department has often started with just sort of notices as opposed to ticketing immediately. I think it'd be reasonable to ask them to start with that once the sign is up, to give notification instead of going straight to ticketing.
They're pretty good about that, I think.
Yeah.
Education up front.
So if we have consensus on this, Dan, do we actually need to
No,
take
you don't
any
need to do
further
anything.
boarding?
All I have to do is enforce the state law. We'll see where it goes.
Okay, let's start with that.
Okay. All right.
Anybody else object to that?
That's all I have.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Upcoming agenda.
Upcoming agenda, I think.
Upcoming agenda. It's getting late, folks, forgive me.
Well, we're
All
bringing
right,
it
I
home
have-
almost on time.
Almost on time.
I know. We're still due for our quarterly update from the PD.
Yep.
We'll be revisiting vacant properties.
Do you think you'll be ready for the 13th for the vacant properties?
It's a goal, but
Okay.
I'd rather be, I think, deliberate and reach the people that we need to reach than not.
Absolutely. So that's a tentative. Okay.
Yep. Highway Fire Department tax rates.
We're going to have that on, I talked to Melissa, she said she'd like to have that on July 27th, so that's when that will come.
And we're going to need to talk about the sand filter.
We're definitely going to talk about the sand filter. We're going to make sure that you guys give us the green light to begin preparations for a November vote. You don't need to take any formal action. We'll do that at a future meeting, but we'll want to make sure that you guys want us to do that, and we'll prepare the bond the language for the bond and et cetera, so you folks can vote on that formally in the next couple months or so.
Okay, anything come to mind that I'm missing?
Well, you wouldn't know about this, but we do have some loan applications that we need to sign for the sand filter project. If you'll recall, our engineer graciously decided to begin design work and that sort of thing with the intention that we would be getting these loans. So they have come through. We just need to sign those. Those are pretty straightforward. It's what we already agreed to do. And we may have need for an executive session on the 13th, so we can certainly talk about that, Tom, about if that makes sense then or not. But other than that, I think that covers it.
All right. Other business. Ed.
I just want to recap that because we're not meeting again before July 4th. I want to encourage people to take advantage of the happenings around July 4th. Thank you again to the sponsors and to the staff for organizing all of that.
Nancy?
No.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, I just, it's been brought up tonight by Jackie and Clark, I think, but the question of e-bikes and what a lot of people call e-motos, they're kind of more like electric motorcycles that seem to be, most e-bikes are not a problem at all. The pedal assist e-bikes, they operate just like regular bikes and aren't an issue. But there are these e-motos that are kind of hub drive, self-propelled things that you see going down both the road and sidewalks and bike paths at like 35 miles an hour, it seems like. And
some of those will go almost 50.
Yeah, so they seem to be falling between the cracks. And I know I heard a story. Burlington just adopted a new ordinance regulating these types of vehicles, and I think it would make sense for us to do a little bit of research and see what other towns have and see if there's something that we could put in place as well.
So Jim, as you know, just e-bikes that have certain capacity over, I think it's 30 miles an hour, they're not allowed on bike paths anyways, because they're considered motorized vehicles. So are you talking something in addition to the state law, or what are you
I'd like to see it, like what municipalities have for ordinances, because there's, honestly, I appreciate the fact that they should be regulated as motorcycles, but I also see them driving down into oncoming traffic with no helmets on and all sorts of crazy things. And I just think it might help a lot if we had, some clarity in our municipal ordinances about those, but all classes of e-bikes too. Which ones are allowed where and which ones aren't.
And then it just becomes enforcement.
It's a big public safety issue.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, I actually found the article forwarded to Jim because I know he's a resident e-bike guru.
Yeah.
But, I was going down County Road and witnessed a young man on one of those high-powered bikes doing a wheelie.
Yep.
Weaving from one lane to the other, up onto the sidewalk, back into the road. And I was in my automobile, and he was ahead of me. He was going in. And I know we at one time passed an ordinance banning those things on one of the trails here. I think Jeannie, if ever been here, Jeannie was the chair, and specifically addressed these powered bikes on the Malosi Trail.
Because if it's motorized, it
It's not
shouldn't
allowed.
be.
It's not allowed. Yeah.
It's electric motor, but yeah.
Yeah, they're considered motorized vehicles if they're above a certain speed. Yes.
I've seen people moving at a good clip, and again, my fear is some little 2-year-old gets whacked on the trail by this.
Yep.
Yeah, just if we could have staff just like pulled together, like what did Burlington do? Maybe it's something we want to do, maybe it's not.
No,
but just something you could share with the board.
Sure, we'd be happy to do that. My concern is unrealistic expectations about enforcement, because a lot of what you're seeing right now is already illegal, and I don't know about passing an ordinance if that would change behavior, but maybe it would.
I wonder if educating the public at the point of purchase.
Yeah, maybe part of it's public education too, but it's it's honestly, these, I see them all the time. And if I saw, you know, there should, I don't know what the enforcement priority is for those types of things, but it should be clear, maybe both to the public and to the police department, what's allowed and what's not, and what needs to be stopped. Because it is, you know, seeing these guys, like I say, riding these things down into oncoming traffic at 35 miles an hour with no helmets. I mean, it's quite aside from, you know, riding on bike paths and things like that. I mean, if there's a way to get information out there, if it needs to be an ordinance or not, but it's a growing problem, and other cities and towns are dealing with it, and I think we should look at it.
And we can certainly, at the chief's PD update, you can certainly ask him about e-bike enforcement issues.
I would also encourage us to ask Andrew and his team at the Bike Hub to start there. I bought an e-bike a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I use it as a regular bike, and I follow the laws of the road. I don't know that many people are doing that. I think that people are buying them because they're a great method of transportation, and they feel like they can take shortcuts, and that's why you're seeing them drive into traffic, et cetera.
I was also just speaking to Andrew earlier this week, actually, and I'm more interested in an e-moto in a lot of ways, but I'm also a licensed motorcycle rider, and I would plan to ride it on the road and follow the traffic laws. And I have I went through the DMV course where they teach you how to do that safely. The situation I had earlier this week, I was traveling west on Route 9 from the center of town, and I was turning right onto Benmont Avenue, and there was an individual on a e-bike, probably an e-moto, on the sidewalk that came right across the crosswalk as I was turning into that direction of travel. And I'm not expecting someone to just come out from the sidewalk. Pedestrians stop and they see if there's traffic coming. This individual on the e-bike did not do that. And so my concern is really for their safety and for my liability. But I think Ed, I agree with your point that maybe we can enlist the Bike Hub. Maybe there's some other organization in town, but the DMV rider safety course that I went through to learn how to ride a motorcycle was excellent. Maybe there's something similar that could be offered for e-bicyclists.
There should be.
And I'd be interested to know if state law has kept up with e-motos advancements, because they've gotten faster.
They've gotten faster,
very quickly,
less expensive.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Not required.
Nope. Yes. Yep. It is a problem.
Okay.
All right, so we'll take a look at what other communities are doing, what the state law is, and I know that Mark Anders is on the Bike Hub board. I'll chat with him as well.
Clark, anything for other business?
Something simple, I think. You know that really nice sign that says, you know, historic Bennington, that sits on either end of the route, and the one on the west end is not down. It's laying in there.
This is the one near, as you past Vichy as you're coming into town?
You know, Ronnie Gross stuff just past that.
Yep. Okay.
Right there.
So the welcome to Bennington sign has been hit.
It's a nice one. It's laying in the grass.
Okay. Wow.
Jackie?
I didn't know that.
Two things, I guess. One, happy Independence Day, happy birthday, America. And two, motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
3 minutes early, Tom. 3 minutes.
We're on time.